Chapter 1001. As Muziki walked in, it caused a great deal of discussion. Many girls held their faces in their hands as they stared at Muziki. Muziki's grandfather was a second-class duke and a powerful summoner. He was one of the pillars of the empire. Muziki's status was comparable to those of the princes. This summoner academy was filled with crouching tigers and hidden dragons. Summoners from several countries were gathered here. Muziki walked to Lien Frostdream's side. "Let's go eat." Lien Frostdream's expression was cold. "Muziki, I already said that I don't like you. I'm only helping someone deliver a love letter." Muziki glanced at the red-eyed Ning Shu. "I like people who deliver love letters, not people who write love letters." Hee. There was a hubbub of laughter all around. Many people joined in the fun and shouted, "Let's go together, let's go together." Lien Frostdream and Muziki were a perfect match. To be honest, in the face of such a situation, Ning Shu's old face could no longer maintain a straight face. "Please don't come looking for me in the future." Lien Frostdream held on to Ning Shu's arm. "I already have a date, please don't bother me." Muziki glanced at Ning Shu, standing still. Muziki was talented and had a good family background. His heart was filled with pride. If he was rejected by a girl, he would definitely feel uncomfortable. "You go eat first. I'm planning on going home," Ning Shu said with a serious expression. "I'm not someone who steals the boy my friend likes." Lien Frostdream tightly held on to Ning Shu's arm. As Lien Frostdream spoke, the surrounding people looked at Ning Shu with contempt, as if they were toads that wanted to eat swan meat. Ning Shu's face was a bit hot. Many times, Yi Shuang's embarrassment had been caused by Lien Frostdream. For Lien Frostdream to say such words now, it was no different from roasting her over a fire. Lien Frostdream had sworn to Ning Shu that she wouldn't steal the man he liked. It really made one feel a bit awkward and embarrassed. Were mercenaries all so low in EQ? She could treat the man she liked as a partner that she could entrust her life to. Muziki looked at Ning Shu with an inexplicable expression. "I remember that I told you clearly." "What's going on?" Who knew what was going on? Lien Frostdream's mouth, she didn't know what she was saying. Ning Shu silently cursed her in his heart. "Frostdream, I have to go back. I'll be leaving first." Ning Shu picked up the bag and prepared to leave. As Ning Shu walked out of the classroom, she heard Lien Frostdream impatiently say to Muziki, "I already said that I didn't write the love letter to you. Shuang is timid, so I wrote the love letter to you." Ning Shu almost wanted to kneel down. This kind of thing was not something to be proud of. Why did he have to repeat it over and over again? "I don't care who wrote the love letter. Since you're the one who gave me the love letter, this young master will recognize you." Ning Shu left the Summoner Academy and felt the money in his bag. There was only one silver coin. Yi Shuang had received this silver coin from the trade union in the morning. Once one became a summoner and successfully summoned a beast, they could register at the trade union and receive a silver coin every month. This silver coin was to be handed over to Yi Shuang's parents. Yi Shuang's parents were ordinary people, so Yi Shuang was very lucky to become a summoner. However, her talent was very weak. Generally speaking, a powerful summoner had the bloodline of a family. There were also summoners among commoners, but generally speaking, they couldn't compare to the strength of a family. Once one became a summoner, they would be revered. This world was incomparably dangerous. In the vast and boundless mountain ranges, there were powerful demon beasts. These demon beasts had thick skin and thick flesh. Only a summoner could deal with these demon beasts. A summoner could summon a powerful beast. Yi Shuang's family conditions were ordinary. Her father was a craftsman and her mother took care of the household. She also had a 5 or 6-year-old brother. Ning Shu pushed open the door and saw Yu Shuangshuang's mother sewing clothes. The room was a bit dark. Her head was lowered as she sewed, her eyes almost touching the clothes. Yu Shuangshuang's family conditions weren't good. Lian Bingmeng was the young miss of the Lian family. Although the Lian family was a bit down, they were still a noble family. This was the so-called, poor people have short ambition. Sister. A soft child's voice sounded. A child ran over. Ning Shu squatted down and picked up the little bean. He asked, "Little bean, are you obedient at home?" Little bean is very obedient. Little bean also wants to become a great summoner like sister. The little bean raised his fist and shouted. "You have ambition." Ning Shu said with a smile. Yu Shuangshuang was now the pride of the Yu family. She had become a summoner, was respected, and could even marry into a good family. Summoners were more willing to marry other summoners. This way, their offspring would have a greater chance of becoming a summoner. "You're back." Yu Shuangshuang's mother put down the clothes and rubbed her sore eyes. "I'll go prepare the food. Your father will be back soon." "Okay." Ning Shu put down the little bean and took out a silver coin from his pocket. "Mother, this is a benefit from the union. Take it." Yu Shuangshuang's mother took the silver coin and didn't forget to say to Ning Shu, "Practice hard. Sister, can you let little grass out?" The little bean pulled on the corner of Ning Shu's clothes. "Little grass." Ning Shu froze for a moment. Then he remembered that Yu Shuangshuang's summoned beast was a blade of grass. Ning Shu searched Yu Shuangshuang's memories to see how he could summon the beast. Ning Shu closed his eyes and used his mind to summon the beast out of the summoning space. A blade of grass appeared on the table, swaying in the wind. The grass was very ordinary. It only had 3 long leaves. This kind of grass could be found all over the mountain. Ning Shu was speechless. Such a weak summoned beast. Ning Shu wiped his face. No wonder people called him a loser. Summoned beasts were divided into animals and plants. Although there were no useless summoned beasts, only useless summoners, nowadays, animal summoned beasts were generally revered. After all, animals were highly lethal and had consciousness, so they could cooperate with their masters and move together. There were also powerful plants, such as man-eating flowers and brambles, but most of the plants were in the state of being useless. Weak plants didn't have consciousness and couldn't communicate with their masters. It was more cost-effective to cultivate plants than to cultivate animal-summoned beasts. Anyway, other than the most powerful plant-summoned beasts, other plant-summoned beasts were useless. For example, the blade of grass in front of Ning Shu was really an ordinary blade of grass. Yu Shuangshuang was lucky to become a summoner and summon a summoned beast. However, she was also unlucky because the summoned beast was useless. The little bean carefully touched the blade of grass. Ning Shu said, "Sister will definitely become a powerful summoner." "Yes." Ning Shu touched the little bean's head. "Sister will definitely become powerful." Chapter 1002. When the mother-in-law finished cooking, Yu Shuangshuang's father came back. There were some wood shavings on his head and body, and he looked very tired. He took out a wooden sculpture in the shape of a Pegasus from his back. The Pegasus was very lifelike, and the surface was very smooth. It could be seen that the person who carved it had put in a lot of effort. "Father." The little boy immediately jumped over happily and snatched the wooden Pegasus from Yu Xing's hands. "Father, what kind of summoned beast is this?" the little boy asked his father. Yu Xing patted the wood shavings on his head and said, "This is a holy horse beast, a holy beast." "Great, it's a holy beast." The little boy held the wooden sculpture and looked at it over and over again, unable to put it down. Ning Shu put away the grass on the table, put a basin of water on the table, and said, "Father, wash your hands." "Okay." Yuxing had a smile on his face and used a handkerchief to wash his face. Sister, I want to be a summoner. I want my summoned beast to have wings and be able to fly in the sky. The little boy hugged the wooden sculpture tightly and looked up at Ning Shu. My little brother will definitely become a summoner, a powerful summoner. Ning Shu smiled and patted the little boy's head. In this world where the strong were respected, everyone wanted to be strong. The mother-in-law put the food on the table. The food was not very sumptuous, just some steamed potatoes mixed with some vegetables. It was quite filling. After lunch, Ning Shu went to her room to practice her peerless martial arts. In this dangerous world, he had to have the ability to protect himself. Since he couldn't count on his summoned beast, he could only strengthen himself. Many people who couldn't become a summoned beast would choose to cultivate their own body. Ning Shu cultivated for a while, and waves of spiritual energy went into his body. The spiritual energy in this world was very abundant. The spiritual energy washed his body, and it was very comfortable. The spiritual energy around him was very abundant. Ning Shu thought for a while and summoned Xiao Chao to let her absorb some spiritual energy. The biggest disadvantage of plants was that their consciousness was shallow, and they weren't as intelligent as animals. Powerful summoned beasts could transform into human form. In history, there were people who had summoned beasts in human form. That was how powerful they were. Xiao Chao stood beside Ning Shu, its 3 long leaves swaying slightly. Ning Shu was so engrossed in his cultivation that his dantian had already formed qi force. Cultivating in a world with abundant spirit qi felt great indeed. It wasn't until his mother-in-law knocked on Ning Shu's door and asked him to hurry to the academy that Ning Shu stopped cultivating. He found a small flower pot and planted the grass in it. Then, she carried the small flower pot to school. However, the grass had always been green and did not wither at all. According to the academy's teachers, the origin of these summoned beasts was summoned from a different time and space and formed a contract. At the same time, the summoned beasts would also choose their masters. Whatever their consciousness came into contact with, they would be summoned. Yu Shuangshuang's spiritual power was not strong. As he passed by the shop, Ning Shu went in and strolled around. He saw that magic crystals were very expensive, easily several thousand gold coins. Ning Shu gulped down a mouthful of saliva. Magic crystals were things that existed in the bodies of demon beasts. They were the source of a demon beast's strength. Ning Shu had intended to buy some wood element magic crystals for Xiao Chao, but when she saw the price drop, she had a thought in her mind. Oh my, it's such a waste to give such an expensive item to a blade of grass. Now, the strength of a summoner was measured by the strength of their summoned beast. Ning Shu decided to wait until he had a little bit of ability to protect himself. Then, he would go to the mountain range to obtain magic crystals. The reason why magic crystals were so expensive was because not every demon beast had one. First-level demon beasts simply did not have one. Ning Shu hammered his chest, feeling stifled. Ning Shu carried the flower pot to the classroom. Lien Frost Dream was already sitting in her seat. Ning Shu beckoned her over. Ning Shu carried the small flower pot over. Lien Frost Dream glanced at the flower pot, decoration. Is this your summoned beast? A girl next to him snickered. Ning Shu nodded, this is my summoned beast. Yu Shuangshuang rarely summoned her summoned beast. This was because she was worried that others would laugh at her. Yu Shuangshuang had failed most of her schoolwork. For instance, she had to practice controlling her summoned beast. How could she control a blade of grass? Seeing Ning Shu so calm, the girl didn't say anything. The more you were afraid of something, the more others would grasp onto your weakness and attack you. Why did you plant your summoned beast in the flower pot? Lien Frost Dream asked Ning Shu. It's a green environment. It's good for the eyes. Ning Shu sat down. Ning Shu asked, you came so early. Did you not eat lunch? I ate. Lien Frost's dream's expression was a bit strange. Ning Shu took out a book from his desk. He turned and saw Yu Shuang's expression. What's wrong? Shuang, there is something that I must confess to you. I went to eat lunch with Muziki. Lien Frost's dream said, but I didn't go alone with Muziki. I went with the second prince and the fourth prince. Lien Frost's dream already knew so many people. Ning Shu shook his head. I'm fine. I have nothing to do with Muziki. You can eat with whoever you want, that's your freedom. You don't need to explain anything to me. I'm just afraid that you'll be angry. Friends should eat meat and drink wine together, there's no need to be so shy. Sometimes I have to worry about you when I do things. Even Frost's dream sighed as she spoke. Lien Frost's dream was a mercenary in her past life. She had companions to do missions with, so there weren't many restrictions between them. Lien Frost's dream also felt that it wasn't appropriate for her to be friends with Yu Shuang. But, she could see that Yu Shuang was quite pitiful. Her talent was poor and her family conditions weren't too good either. She wanted to return the kindness that Yu Shuang had shown her before. When it was time for class, a tutor came in with a book under his arm. This tutor was wearing a tutor's robe. His every move was extremely gentle and gentlemanly. He was warm and gentle like jade, and also very handsome. Ning Shu saw Lien Frost's dream from the corner of his eyes. She was supporting her chin as she looked at Instructor 1. Ning Shu's eyebrows arched up. He quietly asked, "Do you like Instructor 1? Lien Frost's dream shook her head. "No, I admire the strong. Besides the principal, Instructor 1 is the strongest person in the world. Moreover, he is much younger than the principal." Ning Shu didn't speak. Lien Frost's dream treated Yu Shuang with pity, not as an equal. Sometimes, receiving wasn't necessarily more blessed than giving. Moreover, it didn't matter if others were receiving or not. Ning Shu used his hand to push the small grass leaves in the flower pot. The edges of the leaves were slightly serrated, and they swayed back and forth. How could he strengthen this sort of summoned beast? Ning Shu closed his eyes. A ball of green light appeared in his consciousness. This ball of light was very small, it should be the consciousness of the small grass. However, his consciousness was empty. There were no emotions, no thoughts. Thump thump thump. Ning Shu heard the sound of the plant's pulse. He could even see the veins of the plant, as if there were water flowing within them. Chapter 1003. Ning Shu stared at the little grass as if he were looking at the structure of a plant under a microscope. The master was very clear about his summoned beast. Ning Shu was staring at the little grass in a trance when he was pushed by someone. He immediately regained his composure and looked at Lien Frost's dream. Lien Frost's dream covered her mouth with her hand and said, "Teacher is calling you." Ning Shu stood up in a daze. "Was my class so boring that you were in a daze from beginning to end?" Teacher Wen gently asked. His appearance didn't seem like he was reprimanding someone at all, but it made one feel ashamed. "I'm sorry, I will definitely be serious," Ning Shu said. "Sit down." Teacher Wen had Ning Shu sit down. A summoner's strength lies not only in their summoned beasts, but also in the summoner themselves. When powerful demon beasts and summoned beasts become powerful, they can transform into human form. Although we humans don't have hard armor or large bodies, we have the greatest potential. It doesn't matter if a summoned beast is weak or small, but a powerful summoner is also powerful. As long as you can defeat a demon beast that attacks a city, you are a powerhouse. Teacher Wen said. Ning Shu didn't know if this person was speaking to him or not, but he heard it in his heart. Whether it was a white cat or a black cat, as long as it could catch a mouse, it was a good cat. Next, go to the training room and practice controlling your summoned beasts. Give them orders from your consciousness. Teacher Wen led the way to the training room. I've never seen someone as gentle as Teacher Wen. Lien Frost Dream said as she stared at Teacher Wen's back. She had never seen him like this in her 2 lives. Ning Shu didn't think that this was gentle, but tolerant and broad-minded. A true powerhouse could face anything. A powerful mind. If it were any other teacher, Ning Shu would have been scolded. His talent was poor, but he wasn't serious enough in class. Ning Shu carried the small flower pot to the training room next door. The training room was very large and there were all sorts of props. Release your summoned beasts. Teacher Wen gently said. Dozens of students released their summoned beasts one after another. There were all sorts of summoned beasts, snakes, waves, tigers, birds. In any case, there were beasts that ran on the ground, flew in the sky, and swam in the water. There were all sorts of beasts. However, they were all mutated. For example, some wolves grew a pair of wings. Some summoned beasts were awe-inspiring, while the weaker summoned beasts became listless under the influence of their natural enemies. Ning Shu was speechless. Ning Shu stared at the flower pot he was holding. It was filled with green grass. After everyone else released their summoned beasts, Frost Dream finally released her own. Her summoned beast was a dragon. When it was first released, it was small and cute. It was chubby and had a pair of small fleshy wings. It was simply a harmless little creature. However, no one present dared to underestimate this chubby little thing. If this thing transformed, it would become much bigger than it was now, ferocious and powerful. As soon as this thing came out, some of the weaker summoned beasts whimpered and crawled back on the ground. Some of the stronger summoned beasts had their hair standing on end. They bared their teeth and looked at this cute little thing with vigilance. The little dragon jumped into Lien Frost Meng's arms, trying to act cute in front of her. Alright, stop messing around. Your summoned beast is very strong. Raise it well. Teacher Wen looked at the little meat dragon. Thank you, teacher. Frost Dream smiled. Now give your pet an order. Jump over from the high platform in front of you. Make your summoned beast understand your orders and make your summoned beast understand your intentions. This way, when you fight later, they will be able to cooperate better. Your summoned beast is your companion. Normally, you should let your summoned beast out to interact with each other. Teacher Wen said. Frost Dream took the lead and had her summoned beast jump over from the high platform. The little meat dragon unwillingly twisted its little butt and opened its small fleshy wings to fly over. The other students finished their training one by one. Ning Shu held the flower pot and watched from the side. This feeling of being excluded and being the only one who hadn't handed in their homework made him feel extremely lonely. However, Ning Shu simply didn't have the means to complete this sort of training. How could he let a blade of grass jump over? Teacher Wen walked in front of Ning Shu. Your summoned beast is a bit weak. Try to communicate with it. If possible, you can even give it some fruit of wisdom juice to absorb. Teacher, how could you Shuang have the money to buy a fruit of wisdom? Her family is a commoner and a fruit of wisdom costs several thousand gold coins. A student laughed. Isn't it just a fruit of wisdom? I'll give one to Shuang. What's so funny about that? Can a person choose their own birth? Frost Dream held the meat dragon and walked over to Ning Shu's side. She stuffed a bright red fruit into Ning Shu's hands. Ning Shu looked down. The fruit was about the size of a strawberry and had a mesmerizing fragrance. Some of the summoned beasts that smelled this scent became restless. This sort of thing could increase a summoned beast's intelligence. Ning Shu couldn't help but think of the wisdom pill. She had once given Qin Yu 3 wisdom pills, but she never thought that Qin Yu's mother would be smarter than her. She had also eaten a wisdom pill, but her IQ hadn't increased by leaps and bounds. This is too precious, I cannot accept it. To be honest, Ning Shu didn't think much of being ridiculed for being poor. But, Frost Dream had given him a fruit of wisdom in front of so many people. Moreover, her tone was as light as a feather, as if this wasn't a big deal at all. Several thousand gold coins wasn't much to Frost Dream, but to a family like Yu Shuangshuang, they wouldn't be able to afford a fruit of wisdom in their lifetime. His father-in-law worked as a carpenter and only earned a few silver coins a month. A summoner was a profession that burned the most money and earned the most money. It was a highly respected profession. The most awkward summoner was someone like Yu Shuangshuang. If you think of me as a friend, then take it. Frost Dream said. If you really thought of me as a friend, then don't act like this. You're trying to help me out, but you're actually putting me in an even more awkward situation. Ning Shu returned the fruit of wisdom to Frost Dream. Thank you for your kindness. Frost Dream frowned, a bit unhappy. She had given him a fruit of wisdom and yet he had refused. To be honest, anyone with a little bit of self-respect wouldn't be able to accept something from Frost Dream like this and still be grateful. No one liked to have their self-respect cut into pieces. The fruit of wisdom isn't something cheap. Frost Dream, you should take good care of it. Teacher Wen gently said. Then, he asked Ning Shu, can you summon another beast? If you can't then you can give up on this one. Teacher, my mental strength isn't enough to summon another beast. Ning Shu said. A person's mental strength was determined from birth. He didn't rule out the possibility of increasing one's mental strength, but Yu Shuangshuang's mental strength simply wasn't strong enough. Otherwise, she wouldn't have summoned a blade of grass. Teacher Wen paused for a moment and then comforted Ning Shu, the heavens never seal off all paths. There are no trash summoned beasts. Thank you, teacher. Ning Shu bowed. Cultivation was like this. Talent, resources, and destiny were all indispensable. As for Yu Shuangshuang, she had none of these. The chances of Yu Shuangshuang becoming a powerhouse were very small. Chapter 1004. Ning Shu also wanted to summon another summon beast, but Yu Shuangshuang's mental strength wasn't strong enough. Summoning another summon might cause her mind to collapse. Some people forcefully summoned summons, and in the end ended up harming themselves. Their minds would collapse and they would turn into fools. Moreover, controlling a summoned beast required mental strength. If one's mental strength wasn't strong enough, the summoned beast might bite back at them. A summoner borrowed the strength of a summoned beast, but if they couldn't control their strength, then that would be bad. When Teacher Wen heard Ning Shu say that his mental strength wasn't enough to summon and control a summoned beast, he couldn't help but shake his head. If his mental strength was just a little bit stronger, then he wouldn't have been able to summon a blade of grass. There were very few summoners that could summon such a weak summoned beast. As the others were training, Ning Shu sat in a corner, communicating with the green mass of light in his mind. Kelp was also ignorant. He didn't know anything, but he had become a powerful existence. He had wholeheartedly wanted to break through to the next world, so there was nothing that was impossible. Ning Shu invaded the mass of light with his consciousness, using the simplest of emotions to communicate with her. After training ended, Lian Frost Dream walked over to Ning Shu's side. She said with some annoyance, I gave you the fruit of wisdom, so why didn't you accept it? I was helping you get out of trouble, and yet you returned it to me in front of so many people. You're making me lose face. I can't accept a reward without any effort. The fruit of wisdom is very precious, and it's not like I can't return it. Ning Shu said with some helplessness. Did I ask you to return it? Lian Frost Dream frowned. She wasn't angry, but she was still dignified. I really don't understand you. Just for some inexplicable self-esteem, what's the point of holding on to that self-esteem of yours? Isn't it just because you feel ashamed that you accepted my things? I really don't have any reason to accept your things. Ning Shu said. After accepting it, he felt as if he owed her something. Ning Shu didn't like owing others things. Do as you please. Just looking at you like that makes me feel irritated. You don't even consider me a friend. Lien Frost Dream hugged her summoned beast and turned around to leave. Her former companions weren't like this. They would share anything with each other. Ning Shu also felt irritated. Being friends with such a bad temper was quite tiring. She didn't think that accepting gifts was shameful. After all, who didn't have difficult times? But, Yu Shuangshuang was trying to get away from Lien Frost Dream. If he wanted to be strong, he would have to defeat Lien Frost Dream to prove himself. Even if he accepted her gift, he would still be living under Lien Frost Dream's shadow for the rest of his life. If he ever faced her with a sword in the future, he would be labeled as a traitor. You've been eating and using my food, and now you're betraying me. After the class ended and they returned home, Ning Shu didn't waste any time cultivating. When he was cultivating, he put the small flower pot next to him and let Xiao Chao absorb the spiritual energy. Sister. Little Bean knocked on the door. Ning Shu stopped cultivating and opened the door. What's wrong? Ning Shu crouched down and asked. Sister, what are you doing in the room? The little boy tilted his head and asked. Ning Shu thought about it and said, Big sister is meditating and cultivating. Little Bean, you can cultivate with Big sister. Okay. Little Bean was beaming with joy. Ning Shu placed his hand on Little Bean's back and sent a bit of energy into Little Bean's body. Sister, what should I do? Little Bean copied Ning Shu and crossed his legs. He looked up at Ning Shu and asked. Ning Shu taught Little Bean the cultivation method of the peerless martial arts. He taught Little Bean how to cultivate. Even if he couldn't become a summoner, he would still have the ability to protect himself. Yu Shuangshuang was too naive. She had been hot-headed and wanted to kill Lien Frost Dream, but she had never thought about her family. Even if they died, her family would still be punished. Even if Lien Frost Dream didn't care, would Lien Frost Dream's companions really let the Yu family off? They wouldn't. Offending a noble was a great crime. She estimated that her entire family would die in the end. Even if they didn't die, they would still be enslaved. Ning Shu didn't reveal any hostility, nor did he try to break off relations with Lien Frost Dream. So what if they broke off relations? She was just a person who didn't know what was good for her. This kind of situation where everything she did was wrong was truly uncomfortable. The final reason was that Yu Shuangshuang was too weak. Being weak was fine, but she had also become friends with a peerless genius. A good horse was matched with a good saddle, and a treasured blade was matched with a hero. The difference between Yu Shuangshuang and Yu Shuangshuang's talent was like clouds and mud. Birds of a feather flocked together. A poor student would think that a top student was stupid and was simply a bookworm. A top student would think that a poor student was mentally retarded and had a brain full of tofu dregs. She didn't want to be friends, but Lien Frost Dream wanted to show her love and show her loyalty. Big sister, I feel like there's a wind blowing in my body. It's cool. Little Bean opened his eyes, looking at Ning Shu with a pleasantly surprised expression. Little Bean, you're very fierce. Keep working hard. Ning Shu smiled. Then, he sat down beside Little Bean and began to cultivate. Ever since Ning Shu had refused Lien Frost Dream's fruit of wisdom, Lien Frost Dream had become angry. She didn't bother with Ning Shu and was busy forming a mercenary team with the most talented students of the school. During the holidays, they were preparing to go adventuring. In the future, this team would become a mercenary team that would shake the entire continent. They would be the most powerful mercenary team on the entire continent. There were men and women in the team, but most of them were men. The women were either die-hard fans of Lien Frost Dream, or later on they would develop into vicious female supporting characters. After all, those that could enter a mercenary team were all talented, had good family backgrounds, and were beautiful. There was certainly a lot of love and hatred involved. Lien Frost Dream was talented, so she would definitely attract the attention of many men. Lien Frost Dream's mercenary team was preparing to go adventuring. Ning Shu also planned to use the holidays to gather some resources. After a period of cultivation, her peerless martial arts had become much stronger. Even if she went out alone, she should be able to guarantee her own safety if she didn't encounter any powerful summoners or demon beasts. Ning Shu wanted to look for spirit medicines. He didn't know if there were any in this world that could refine the wisdom pill. During the time that he had been running around with Qin Yu, Ning Shu had learned a great deal about alchemy. Ning Shu used the silver coin that the Summoner Guild had given him to buy some rations and weapons. Ning Shu also bought a dagger just in case. Ning Shu was the lowest level of summoner. Every month, he would only receive a silver coin. If he rose a level and became an apprentice summoner, he would receive 2 gold coins. A summoner had their own source of strength. This source came from their summoned beasts. When a summoned beast grew stronger, its strength would be reflected back to its master. A summoner would also cultivate and have tools to measure their level. Ning Shu's dantian had a whirlpool-like object. This whirlpool had a bit of strength, but the strength was pitifully small. If a summoned beast didn't grow, the summoner's strength would also be limited. There were advantages and disadvantages. Ning Shu returned home and told his parents that he was going out adventuring. He gave the leftover money to his mother-in-law. Chapter 1005. Hearing that Ning Shu wanted to go on an adventure, her parents were very worried. They knew that although their daughter was a summoner, she did not have much combat power. If she really went on an adventure, she might be in danger. Shuang, can you not go? Ning Shu said. It's too dangerous. I heard from your Aunt Li that magic beasts can even poop out a person's intestines. Don't take this risk. It's okay. I'll go with my classmates and a powerful teacher. Nothing will happen. Ning Shu comforted the couple. Take care of your own safety. If anything goes wrong, run. Your life is more important. Yu Xing reminded Ning Shu. If you ask me, you might as well get married and live a good life. Yu Xing's mother could not help but say. Ning Shu did not say anything. He knew that his mother-in-law was doing this for his own good. The road to becoming a powerful person was less thorny and painful. Why did one become powerful? It was to better control one's own destiny. A powerful person did not become a powerful person out of thin air. A powerful person was made of blood and sweat. It was natural for the strong to be respected. Once the school was on holiday, Ning Shu packed his things and prepared to go to the Fallen Mountain Range. The reason why it was called the Fallen Mountain Range was because it was a huge mountain range on the continent. The area was extremely large. There were all kinds of powerful magic beasts and all kinds of resources in it. Although many people died in the Fallen Mountain Range, there were not many people who survived because they could not withstand the attacks of the summoners and mercenaries. The corpses were all eaten by the magic beasts and then pooped out. Danger and opportunity were proportional. There were many good things in the Fallen Mountain Range. Therefore, Ning Shu decided to follow the mercenaries to the Fallen Mountain Range. It was too slow and too dangerous to go alone. He could earn some money along the way. Ning Shu went to register for a beginner mercenary certificate. Then, he accepted a mission to protect a young noble woman to the Fallen Mountain Range. There were many mercenaries who accepted this mission. When they saw Ning Shu's young face, they could not help but frown. In the eyes of these mercenaries, Ning Shu was too young. How could an inexperienced rookie who did not understand the situation in a team cause the whole team to be wiped out? What can you do? A man with a scar on his face stared at Ning Shu and asked. Does the fact that I can lift a big rock count? Ning Shu asked. The scarred man was speechless. You'd better go home and be all lovey-dovey with your man. This kind of thing isn't something you can do. Let her follow. A clear female voice sounded out. Ning Shu turned around and saw a woman wearing a long dress and a veil. Her figure was graceful, and her exposed eyes were beautiful and moving. "Miss Mu, you're here," the scarred man hurriedly said. Ning Shu rolled his eyes. "Miss Mu? Mu Ziki's family?" This person was probably Mu Ziki's sister. "Let's set off now," Miss Mu said. Miss Mu turned around and boarded a carriage. The carriage was quite luxurious, and it was being pulled by a demonic horse. This kind of demonic horse has the bloodline of demonic beasts and is more durable than ordinary horses. Ning Shu followed behind the mercenaries and looked at the guards in front of him. Logically speaking, the eldest daughter of the Mu family should have a lot of bodyguards protecting her when she went out. There were very few bodyguards, but there was an old man in a black robe. Ning Shu could vaguely feel that this old man was very powerful. The hunchbacked old man seemed to feel Ning Shu's gaze and turned his head to stare straight at Ning Shu. His gaze was exceptionally sharp. Ning Shu felt a stinging pain on his face when he was stared at by the old man. He pretended as if nothing had happened and looked away. The old man stared at Ning Shu for a while before turning his gaze away. "Elderly, what's wrong?" Miss Mu's voice came from the carriage. "Nothing, Mississippi." Ning Shu lowered his head and thought. She already had such powerful bodyguards, why would she still hire these mercenaries? She probably wanted to use them as cannon fodder. Anyway, she would have to leave him when she reached the mountain range. Following the Mu family, the journey was smooth. When they reached a town, the guards took out a token and allowed them to pass unimpeded. This token was engraved with the glory of the Mu family. Ning Shu followed the group and didn't waste a single word on the road. When he was hungry, he ate the dry food he brought. Sometimes, when they encountered danger or robbers, they needed the help of the mercenaries. The closer they got to the mountain range, the more chaotic it was. Robberies were all too common. For example, Ning Shu had already encountered 3 waves of robbers. There were always people who weren't afraid of death. Moreover, the Mu family's reputation was very weak in this area. There were all sorts of people, and they didn't recognize the Mu family. Ning Shu also clumsily attacked the robbers. Ning Shu held back. Someone must be watching him. More accurately, someone was observing the mercenaries. It should be that old man. Ning Shu instinctively hid his strength. He hardened his heart and allowed himself to be injured. Ning Shu felt that something was wrong. He felt that Miss Mu's motive for coming to the mountain range was not simple. No matter what, once they reached the mountain range, she had to leave the group and act alone. The robbers were all killed and lying on the ground in a mess. The old man who was addressed as elderly by Miss Mu released his summoned beast. It was a dark green snake. The snake was very big. As soon as it appeared, the air was filled with a suffocating stench. Seeing the snake, the mercenaries couldn't help but take a step back. They looked at the snake with envy and fear. The snake stuck out its tongue and lowered its head to swallow the people on the ground. After a while, its stomach bulged. Ning Shu looked at the snake's stomach. This snake's digestive ability was really strong. It had already digested all the people it had eaten. It was simply a weapon to destroy corpses. He just didn't know if this old man would deliberately kill people to feed his beast. "It's dark now. Let's set up camp here tonight and enter the mountain range tomorrow," elderly said. The mercenaries sat down. Ning Shu leaned against a tree and looked at the wound on his arm. He wanted to see if there were any herbs around to stop the bleeding. "Here." The mercenary with the scar on his face gave Ning Shu a bottle. "Drink it." "Thank you." Ning Shu took the small bottle. He opened it and sniffed. He smelled medicine. This should be a low-level medicine made by a pharmacist apprentice. It was probably made by a pharmacist who wasn't even an apprentice. Pharmacists could purify the medicinal properties of herbs and mix them together to form medicine. The medicine in Ning Shu's hands was quite crude. There were many impurities and the medicinal properties were not fully dissolved. The medicine made by a real master pharmacist had no impurities at all. After drinking it, one would be able to regrow flesh and bones. It was said that there were even medicines that could bring people back to life. Ning Shu drank the medicine. The taste was quite bad. His throat was burning. This medicine wasn't neutralized at all. It was very irritating. Ning Shu smacked his lips. He felt as if he had drunk chilly water. Even his stomach was burning. It was a low-quality product. The medicine made by the tutors of the pharmacy school was green and had a very fresh smell. However, this kind of medicine was quite expensive. It wasn't something mercenaries could afford. Chapter 1006. Ning Shu leaned against a tree and slept the whole night. He wanted to cultivate, but with so many people watching, Ning Shu was wary of elderly. He was powerful enough to protect Miss Mu. Why did he hire so many mercenaries? There must be some treasure in the Death Mountain range that attracted Miss Mu. Ning Shu didn't care about the treasure. He needed to be alive to get it. When they arrived at the Death Mountain range, Ning Shu decided to leave to find the materials for making the wisdom pill and get some magic crystals. He could sell the magic crystals to subsidize his family's expenses. The next morning, the team entered Fallen City, which was the nearest city to the Death Mountain range. Fallen City was very prosperous. When they arrived in the city, Ning Shu planned to sneak away. As soon as he stepped out of the inn, he heard an old voice behind him. "Where are you going?" Ning Shu turned around and saw Elderly. Maybe it was because his summoned beast was a snake, but Ning Shu felt that this man was a bit creepy. Ning Shu smiled and said, "I'm going to buy something." "What do you need?" "I'll ask the guards to buy it for you." "You can stay in the inn," Elderly said and stood in front of Ning Shu. He lifted his chin and let Ning Shu in. "But I've completed my task." "We're already at the Death Mountain range," Ning Shu couldn't help but say. "Other than escorting, Miss Mu has other things to ask of you, so you can't leave yet. Although it's a bit troublesome, the pay is quite good." Ning Shu was speechless. He knew that things wouldn't be so simple. Ning Shu could only return to the inn and sit on the bench. Elderly ordered a lot of dishes and some drinks for the mercenaries. Although it wasn't the most expensive, it would cost a lot of gold coins for so many people. Moreover, the prices in Fallen City were higher than in other places. Ning Shu tore a leg that looked like a chicken leg, but was much bigger than a chicken leg. The meat was quite chewy. It was probably the meat of a magic beast. No matter what he faced next, Ning Shu decided to fill his stomach first. Yu Shuangshuang's family conditions were not good, so she had never eaten magical beast meat. After dinner, Elderly gathered the mercenaries and prepared to enter the Fallen Mountain range. Miss Mu did not take the carriage again. Instead, she walked on foot. When they reached the edge of the Fallen Mountain range, Miss Mu turned around and said to the group of mercenaries, "This time, my target is the Snow Soul Lotus in the icy Jade Lake." "Miss Mu, the Snow Soul Lotus is located in the inner part of the Fallen Mountain range. It's very dangerous." One of the mercenaries frowned and said. Everyone's expression changed. The most precious part of the Snow Soul Lotus was its lotus seed. It was said that this kind of lotus seed contained a lot of heaven and earth energy. If a summoned beast ate it, it would become much stronger. It could be said that it was a qualitative change. However, such a powerful thing was guarded by powerful magical beasts all around. These magical beasts treated the icy jade waves pool as their own territory. How could they allow humans to interfere? Any heaven and earth spiritual object that could increase one's strength would be guarded by magical beasts. Things like the wisdom fruit would even cause a war between magical beasts when they matured. The reason why humans could look down on other species was because they had intelligence and were the leader of all creatures. The strength of these mercenaries was not strong, and they were not even summoners. They relied on their numbers to earn some magic crystals to survive. If they really reached the cold jade pool, very few of them would survive. It was estimated that they would all be wiped out. Ning Shu was speechless. He knew that she was up to no good. They would only be a burden if they went. Ning Shu regretted accepting this mission. He had to think of a way to escape. He felt that Miss Mu did not only want the mercenaries to protect her. Of course, if you are afraid, you can leave. If you follow me to the icy jade waves pool, regardless of whether you succeed or not, I will give you 50 gold coins each. Miss Mu said in a clear voice. 50 gold coins was very generous. Yu Shuangshuang's father might not even be able to earn 50 gold coins in his lifetime. 100 silver coins could only be converted to 1 gold coin. Many of the mercenaries in the group were tempted. One of them stood up and said, I am willing to follow Miss Mu. Wealth moved people's hearts. When one person stood up, the others also stood up. They were afraid that they would suffer a loss. Ning Shu stood motionless. Perhaps it was because of Mu Ziki, but Ning Shu's heart was filled with vigilance towards Miss Mu. There was also a strong elderly. If she was so strong, what was the use of these mercenaries? You also go. Elderly pointed at Ning Shu. Ning Shu hurriedly waved his hand and said with a frightened face, I don't dare to go. I just want to pick some herbs to sell to the pharmacists. Miss Mu knitted her beautiful eyebrows and looked at elderly. The hunchbacked elderly looked at Ning Shu and said, how much can you sell herbs for? If you want to go, I will give you 50 gold coins now. The guard took out a bag and counted 50 gold coins and gave it to Ning Shu. He put it in a small bag and threw it to Ning Shu. Ning Shu caught the gold coins that were thrown to him. It was heavy. What you need to do is to delay the magical beasts and give Miss Mu a chance to pick the lotus seeds. Elder Li's face was indifferent and his tone was cold. Now Ning Shu was riding a tiger and it was hard to get off. 50 gold coins were hot in his hands. Forget it, he would take it one step at a time. When the time came for a fight, she would definitely find a chance to escape. She would not loyally sacrifice her life for these people. The group of people walked into the forest. The trees that covered the sun all day suddenly became a lot cooler. It even felt a little cold. There was the sound of strange birds gurgling in the forest. There was also a rabbit that was bigger than a normal rabbit. This kind of rabbit was really ferocious. It didn't give off the feeling of a cute rabbit at all. With a snap, it gnawed a hole in a stone. Ning Shu's eyelids twitched. In comparison, her summoned beasts were even weaker. Ning Shu looked around and picked some herbs to put in a cloth bag. Elderly glanced at Ning Shu and retracted his gaze. There were all kinds of dangers in the forest. Even a mosquito could be fatal. Ning Shu did not dare to leave the group to pick the herbs. He was afraid that the hunchbacked elder would kill him. Ning Shu also wanted to see the snow soul lotus in the icy jade lake. If possible, he wanted to get some benefits from it. Miss Mu used them. She could also use the Mu family. How could the fallen mountain be so peaceful? They encountered many attacks along the way. Among them, there was a man-eating tree with long vines that made Ning Shu's eyes light up. If her grass could grow such vines, invulnerable and fast, how good would that be? Every time there was an attack, there would be fewer people. Elderly did not hold back and directly let his summoned beasts eat people. His stomach was bloated. Every time he saw this big snake eating people, he would feel disgusted. He would be buried in the snake's stomach if he were to die. It was simply too distressing. Many people wanted to retreat. However, they were already halfway through the journey. If they turned back, they might not be able to survive. Chapter 1007. It was mostly thanks to the Mu family's guards and elderly that the group had made it this far. Although the mercenaries had rich experience, they were too weak. Experience was not useful at all. Moreover, the deeper they went, the stronger the magical beasts were. If they returned, they would be killed by the powerful magical beasts. They could only brace themselves and continue forward. Ning Shu was even more certain that the Mu family was up to something. It was basically the Mu family's people who were protecting the mercenaries. Ning Shu could not help but rub his arms. He felt a chill on his face. We're almost at the icy Jade Lake. Miss Mu, who had been calm all this time, sounded excited. Everyone quickened their pace. The scenery in front of them changed. They saw a foggy lake. There was a lotus flower in the middle of the lake. There were 3 lotus flowers. Elderly, there are 3 lotus flowers this time. Miss Mu's voice was a little higher. A lotus flower had 9 lotus seeds. Now, there were 20 lotus seeds. 1 lotus seed was hard to find, let alone 20 lotus seeds. Ning Shu felt a very dangerous gaze staring at them. It made his hair stand on end. How many powerful magical beasts were there here? Moreover, Ning Shu did not believe that there was no danger in the lake. Miss Mu took the lead and walked towards the lake. She summoned her beast. Her beast was a gorgeous and huge bird. This bird looked like an enlarged version of a peacock. She jumped onto the bird's back. She held an exquisite dagger in her hand. The blade shone with a cold light. She planned to take the lotus seeds from the air. Miss Mu had just flown above the lake when the water in the lake boiled. One by one, blue fish with sharp beaks rushed towards Miss Mu. Miss Mu held the dagger and killed the fish that rushed towards her. The dead fish fell into the lake. The fish in the lake immediately went to snatch the carcass. The lake water was dyed red. Elderly, Miss Mu squatted on the bird's back and shouted at Elderly who was beside the lake. Elderly summoned his beast. The snake swam to the lake and spat out the people in its stomach. These dead people were the mercenaries who had died before. After the snake spat out the people, the strange fish in the cold pond seemed to be hungry as they surrounded the corpses. Under everyone's gaze, the corpses were gnawed into bloody bones one by one. It was too fucking brutal. If this small fish was already so powerful, then what about the other magical beasts hiding in the dark? This was a place where danger lurked everywhere. Ning Shu didn't know if he could escape with his own strength. The fish that had eaten the carcass rolled violently in the pool, and in a short while, they turned over and died. He died just like that. Ning Shu was stunned for a moment and glanced at the coiled snake. Snake venom. Without the interference of the strange fish in the cold pond, young Lady Mu used her dagger to cut off the 3 lotus flowers and put them away. As soon as Miss Mu harvested the lotus seeds, magical beasts immediately jumped out. One was a bear, and the other was a bloodthirsty spider emperor. They had huge bodies, but the most obvious thing about them was their huge abdomen. Their abdomen was filled with spider silk, and it was poisonous spider silk. Their 4 limbs were covered in fur, and they looked particularly horrifying. As soon as the bloodthirsty spider emperor appeared, its stench was unbearable. There was also an ironhide bull. Ning Shu, what the fuck, how could he win? Ning Shu silently retreated. He had to escape in this situation. As for the lotus seeds, Ning Shu looked up at the peacock flying in midair. Young Lady Mu was standing on the peacock's back, so it looked like there was no hope. Elderly, we have to go now, young Lady Mu yelled as she tossed 2 lotus seeds to Elderly. Elderly caught the lotus seed and glanced at the magical beasts that were about to go berserk. Then, he turned his gaze to the mercenaries who were shivering in fear. His summoned beast actually swam towards the mercenaries and bit each of them. The bitten mercenaries immediately howled with anguish, and elderly stuffed the lotus seeds into their mouths. Ning Shu came to his senses almost instantly and immediately tried to escape. This snake was extremely venomous. Ning Shu caught sight of the mercenary with the scar on his face out of the corner of his eye, and he quickly dragged him away. Elder Li's expression darkened at the sight of Ning Shu trying to escape. He stuffed the 2 lotus seeds into the mouths of the 2 mercenaries before his summoned beasts carried them away. Elder Li finished all these things in a short time. The mercenaries who were bitten by the big snake were foaming at the mouth. Don't think that magical beasts are stupid. When they cultivate to a high level, they will naturally gain intelligence. After living for a long time, they have to gain some intelligence. The 3 powerful magical beasts directly trampled on the corpses that had been fed with lotus seeds, trying to dig out the lotus seeds. Elder Li wanted to let these magical beasts devour the poisonous bodies of the mercenaries. But the 3 magical beasts only had 2 lotus seeds. How should they divide it? In short, magical beasts may not be able to avoid the tricks of humans. The atmosphere between the 3 magical beasts became tense. If they could get a lotus seed, they would be able to increase their strength. Ning Shu pulled the mercenary and ran for a while before stopping. She didn't dare to run around in the jungle. There was danger everywhere here. Ning Shu panted slightly, and the scarred mercenary sat down and panted. Sure enough, they used the mercenaries as cannon fodder. They only lost 2 lotus seeds, which was really unpleasant. "Thank you for saving me," the scarred mercenary said to Ning Shu as he panted heavily. "No problem." Ning Shu waved a hand. This man had given her a vial of medicine, so she didn't mind saving him. "We're the only ones left alive," Ning Shu said. "Let's think of a way to get out." The scarred mercenary's expression darkened at the mention of this. "We might not be able to get out. There are too many powerful magical beasts." This wasn't even the center of the Death Mountain range, so their chances of survival were quite slim. "Let's take it one step at a time." Ning Shu thought for a moment. "How about we go back to the glacial pond?" "Why would we go back? The magical beasts are so powerful. We'll die if we go back." The scarred mercenary didn't agree. "Moo, moo," Ning Shu could vaguely hear the shrill cry of a cow. It sounded like the cry of an iron-hide bull. The shrill cry stopped after a couple of times, and all the birds in the forest flew away in fright. "Is the iron-hide bull dead?" Ning Shu asked with a hint of uncertainty. "The bloodthirsty spider emperor can spit silk, and it's very difficult to escape if you're stained by it. However, her body is quite frail," the scarred mercenary replied. "I don't know how she's doing now." Ning Shu felt a slight tremor beneath his feet. This was most likely the sound of that bear. Holy fuck, he could hear it even from so far away. These magical beasts were killing machines. Compared to them, humans were far too frail. "Put some of this on yourself. This is the smell that magical beasts hate the most. It's something that apothecaries refine from plants." The scarred mercenary pulled out a vial and poured some green liquid onto his skin before handing the vial to Ning Shu. Ning Shu accepted the vial and took a whiff, and he immediately couldn't stand it. This smell was indescribable. Ning Shu poured some of the liquid onto himself, and a strange smell wafted up to his nose. He couldn't stand it before the magical beasts around him. Chapter 1008. They had escaped from the icy Jade Lake, but it was a bit difficult to leave the Mountain of Death now. There were powerful magical beasts everywhere, and danger was everywhere. There were dangerous things in the sky and underground. The 20 to 30 mercenaries who came were all dead, and only she and the scarred mercenary were left. After applying the repellent, Ning Shu was dizzy from the fumes, and the ground was shaking slightly. Obviously, the battle was not over yet, and there were bear roars. The powerful magical beasts were fighting, and the other magical beasts were hiding, making the surroundings surprisingly peaceful. When the commotion died down, Ning Shu planned to go back to the icy Jade Lake. After running one round, he didn't say anything. "It's too dangerous, we should think of a way to get out now," the scarred mercenary said with a face full of disapproval. "I think the icy Jade Lake is quite safe now. The place where the powerful magical beasts fought had a strong pressure, and some of the weaker magical beasts didn't dare to come close." After running around for a while, he didn't find anything, so he went back to pick up some scraps. If the magical beasts died, he could pick up some sunglasses. The three magical beasts were quite powerful, and if one died, he would have profited. The scarred mercenary looked at Ning Shu's eager expression, and his rough face was full of helplessness. He could only follow Ning Shu back to the icy Jade Lake. The icy Jade Lake was already calm, and there were rotting corpses on the ground. There was also the corpse of the bloodthirsty Spider Emperor. Its stomach was broken, and there was yellow and smelly water flowing out. The yellow water was soaked in spider silk. Ning Shu took out his dagger and cut open the head of the bloodthirsty Spider Emperor, but he didn't find the magic crystal at all. Ning Shu was a bit disappointed. Why didn't the Spider Emperor have a magic crystal? The magic crystal should be in the abdomen. The scarred mercenary also took out his dagger and began to remove the wet and smelly spider silk. Ning Shu thought for a while and summoned his own beast. Ning Shu put the grass directly on the bloodthirsty Spider Emperor's body. There should be a lot of energy in the body of a magical beast. Surprisingly, when the grass touched the corpse, it began to take root on the corpse, and its leaves became greener. Ning Shu was overjoyed. As long as he could absorb energy, it would be fine. Although they were weak, their vitality was strong. They absorbed energy from the ground and could even grow on rocks. Yu Shuangshuang had never thought of raising her own summoned beast, nor did she know how to do so. "You're a summoner." The scarred mercenary looked at Ning Shu in surprise, but when he saw that Ning Shu's summoned beast was a blade of grass, he couldn't help but shake his head. Ning Shu turned his head to look at the Frost Jade Lake. The Snow Soul Lotus seed in the middle of the lake had already disappeared. Ning Shu walked to the side of the cold pond and stretched out his hand to touch the water. Immediately, he felt an incomparable piercing pain in his fingers. Following that, he felt numb and could no longer feel his fingers. Ning Shu hurriedly circulated his qi to his fingertips, and his fingers gradually regained their temperature. The water was so cold. It was bone-chilling. Ning Shu had intended to dive into the water to see what treasures lay beneath the blood lotus. However, the water was so cold, and he didn't know if there were any powerful magic beasts in the water. Out of more than 20 lotus seeds, she did not manage to get a single one. In the end, she was unwilling to give up. Ning Shu placed his entire arm into the water. His skin was extremely cold and piercing, and even his blood seemed to have stopped flowing. Ning Shu did not raise his hand. Instead, he circulated the qi in his dantian to see if his peerless martial arts could withstand this kind of cold. Even with the support of his qi, Ning Shu still felt an incomparable piercing pain. When he raised his arm, the skin on his arm was deathly pale, without a trace of blood. It looked like it was necrotic. Ning Shu circulated the qi in his body while constantly rubbing his skin to speed up his blood circulation. Although the pond was not very big, she would probably freeze to death before she could swim to the lotus. She was not strong enough to be impervious to fire and water. Ning Shu turned his head and saw that little grass had already sucked the bloodthirsty Spider Emperor dry. The leaves were green and looked particularly pleasing to the eye. Ning Shu recalled Little Grass. Little Grass appeared in Ning Shu's hand. Ning Shu placed Little Grass in the icy jade pool. Although it was cold, Ning Shu felt a strong spiritual energy. Therefore, Ning Shu suspected that there was some kind of treasure in the Snow Soul Lotus. Little Grass stood in the water. It was probably because the pond was too cold that a layer of frost appeared on her leaves. Soon after, the frost gradually disappeared. Perhaps it was just Ning Shu's misconception, but Ning Shu felt that little grass had grown a little and her leaves were also wider. Sure enough, she still needed nourishment. Ning Shu took a deep breath. He planned to sit cross-legged on the edge of the icy jade pool and cultivate for a while. He could not waste this kind of spiritual energy. The knife-scarred mercenary sat not far from Ning Shu. He held a long knife in his hand and looked at Ning Shu vigilantly. The surroundings were very quiet. There were corpses beside them and strange fish with white bellies in the water. It was a bit creepy. When he saw that Ning Shu was actually closing his eyes as if nothing had happened, he did not know what to say. As expected, a newborn calf was not afraid of a tiger. Ning Shu was very happy. The spiritual energy here was too abundant. The energy in his dantian was about to take the shape of a dragon. However, after taking the shape of a dragon, he felt that there was not enough energy left. When Ning Shu opened his eyes, the sky was almost dark. He looked at little grass in the pond. Little grass had suddenly grown a lot. It had grown from the size of a finger to the size of a daffodil. She could even swim on her own and absorb all the poison fish in the pond. Ning Shu was speechless. She looked like she had been hungry for a long time. Ning Shu summoned her back. When she was in his hand, she looked like a miniature version. Ning Shu sent his consciousness into the green ball of light and used the simplest emotions to communicate with her. The green ball of light was slightly stronger than before. It emitted a very monotonous feeling that was similar to satisfaction. Ning Shu still put her back into the cold pond and prepared to go down. Now that she was slightly stronger than before, she should be able to withstand the temperature of the cold pond. Ning Shu circulated the energy in his body and reached his hand into the cold pond. Although it was cold, he could endure it with the protection of his energy. There must be some treasure in this cold pond. Otherwise, how could there be such abundant spiritual energy? Ning Shu took a deep breath and warmed up twice before preparing to go down the cold pond. Don't tell me you're going down. The knife-scarred mercenary hurriedly blocked Ning Shu. It's almost dark now. It's easy for something to happen. It's okay. I know what to do. Ning Shu slid into the cold pond and immediately shivered. He slid his arm and swam towards the blood snow soul lotus. The closer he got to the lotus, the more abundant Ning Shu felt the spiritual energy. Little grass floated to Ning Shu's side with the current. Ning Shu took a deep breath and suddenly plunged his head into the cold pond. The bone-piercing cold water hurt his eyes. The bottom of the pond was pitch black and he couldn't see anything. Ning Shu took a while to adapt to the darkness at the bottom of the pond. Through the light refracted into the water, he could vaguely see the situation in the water. Chapter 1009. Ning Shu felt around the root of the snow soul lotus and felt a lump of something. He could feel a rich amount of spiritual energy. Ning Shu was a bit disappointed. It was most likely just a spirit marrow crystal. Ning Shu felt a sharp pain in his lungs, as if his lungs were about to explode. Ning Shu continued to feel around and felt another 2 spirit marrow crystals. There was no more air in his lungs. Ning Shu quickly popped his head out of the water and coughed as he tried to breathe. His entire body was numb from the cold. Ning Shu swam towards the edge of the pond with some difficulty. Xiao Qiao floated beside him. Suddenly, Ning Shu felt something touch his leg. He was startled and quickly moved the qi jin in his body. He felt pain in his leg. When he got ashore, he saw his calf. It seemed to have been bitten by something. It was probably a strange fish in the cold pond. Ning Shu squeezed the blood out of his wound. The blood was red, so it shouldn't be poisonous. Ning Shu opened his other hand. There were 3 spirit marrow crystals in his hand. There were only a few spirit marrow crystals. The scattered spirit marrow crystals meant that there was a spirit mine below. Did you get anything? The knife-scarred mercenary saw that Ning Shu was fine and let out a sigh of relief. No matter what, there were only the 2 of them left. It was good to have someone to talk to and get rid of the fear. Ning Shu shook his head, nothing. We're going to spend the night by the pond and leave tomorrow morning. The knife-scarred mercenary didn't have a good expression. There are also a lot of nocturnal animals at night. Ning Shu nodded. He ate some rations and sat cross-legged on the side to cultivate. After absorbing 2 spirit marrow crystals, the qi gene in his dantian had already formed a concrete shape. A white dragon was swimming in his dantian. If he had more spiritual energy, his qi gene would turn into a golden color. Ning Shu left 1 spirit marrow crystal for Xiao Qiao. Ning Shu opened his eyes. Under the hazy moonlight, he saw Xiao Qiao floating around the snow soul lotus. It seemed to have grown a lot bigger. Ning Shu's consciousness communicated with the green ball of light, and the green ball of light conveyed a joyful emotion to her. Following which, Ning Shu discovered that the little grass had actually grown long roots that were planted next to the roots of the snow soul lotus. Moreover, the roots were quite thick and were crazily absorbing spiritual energy. Damn, as expected, monsters could be born under the influence of spiritual energy. Back then, the kelp had occupied the spirit marrow crystal and became an invulnerable kelp monarch. When Ning Shu saw that Xiao Qiao was strengthening herself, he didn't plan to summon her back and let her absorb the spiritual energy. Ning Shu also continued to cultivate. He could not waste this spiritual qi. That lotus seed definitely couldn't compare to direct spiritual energy. He just didn't know if it would have any heaven-defying effects. There had been a great battle between the demonic beasts at the edge of the cold pond. The powerful pressure had temporarily deterred the other demonic beasts from approaching, so the night was peaceful. Ning Shu stopped and opened his eyes. He saw that the scarred mercenary's face had turned purple from the cold, and his hands were hugging his body tightly. The cold air by the cold pond was too heavy. Are you okay? Ning Shu asked. Snort. I'm fine. The scarred mercenary sniffled and said with a trembling voice. Ning Shu reached out and placed his hand on his back, transferring a bit of qi into his body. The scarred mercenary immediately felt a comfortable and warm qi flow into his body. It spread throughout his body and warmed him up. Ning Shu summoned the little grass back. The little grass spun in Ning Shu's hand, emitting a fresh smell. It was difficult to not have any strange smell after absorbing the bloodthirsty spider emperor's corpse. As if it felt Ning Shu's emotions, the little grass actually swayed its leaves for Ning Shu. It seemed that the production of the wisdom pill could not be delayed. The scarred mercenary stood up and moved his body. He felt very comfortable, and the old injuries from before were a little better. What did you transfer into my body? It's more effective than medicine. The scarred mercenary looked at Ning Shu and asked. This is a summoner's ability. Ning Shu took out some rations and ate. I see. The scarred mercenary's expression was a little strange. It was obvious that he didn't believe Ning Shu's words. Ning Shu looked at the scarred mercenary who was deep in thought. You eat some too. After eating, we'll leave quickly. It's not safe here anymore. Okay. The scarred mercenary took out some rations. Seeing that Ning Shu had finished eating, he quickly took the water bottle from his waist and handed it to Ning Shu. Ning Shu was a little puzzled, but he still took the water and drank it. The two left together, but they walked very slowly. They didn't know what would jump out from the tall grass. Ning Shu walked and looked around to see if there were any herbs. Ning Shu found a few spiritual herbs. Some spiritual fruits were guarded by magical beasts. With Ning Shu's current strength, he could fight against the magical beasts that weren't very strong. He grabbed the magical beast's tail and slammed it to the ground. When the magical beast was on the verge of death, Xiao Qiao directly grew out a dense number of roots and vines, directly entangling the magical beast. The sharp tips of the roots pierced into the magical beast's head, and the magic crystal was directly absorbed by her. Ning Shu was speechless. Now at least this grass had the ability to absorb power. That was a good thing. Ning Shu picked the spiritual fruit and put it in his bag. The scarred mercenary looked at the violent Ning Shu, who was swinging the magical beast that was several times bigger than his body and slamming it to the ground. He couldn't help but raise his eyebrows. Every time they encountered a magical beast, she would rush up and hammer it half to death. The grass-like summoned beast would immediately suck the magical beast dry, leaving no magic crystal behind. The scarred mercenary couldn't help but ask, "What are you practicing?" "I'm a summoner," Ning Shu said matter-of-factly. "Don't lie to me. I know that the summoners I've met don't have such ability." The scarred mercenary didn't believe Ning Shu's words. Summoners would elegantly release their summoned beasts. There had never been a summoner like this, more ferocious than a magical beast. Lifting a big magical beast with small arms and legs, this visual impact, "I'm really a summoner." Ning Shu directly wrapped the grass around the corpse of the magical beast. "She's my summoned beast." The scarred mercenary suddenly knelt down in front of Ning Shu. Ning Shu was startled and jumped away. "What are you doing?" "I." The scarred mercenary's cheeks trembled. "I want to worship you as my master. You're old enough to be my father. Worship me as your master. You really can think of such a thing." Ning Shu waved his hand. "I'm a summoner. Summoners practice spiritual power. Without spiritual power secret books, they can only give the summoned beast a powerful magic crystal, but there's no power like yours," the scarred mercenary said. The scarred mercenary said, his eyes filled with desire. In this dangerous world, everyone wanted to be strong and protect themselves. Spiritual power secret books cultivated one's control of spiritual power. It couldn't improve spiritual power at all. It would be great if it could strengthen spiritual power. Because spiritual power couldn't be changed, a summoner with strong spiritual power could become a powerful summoner and a talented summoner. Chapter 10:10. Ning Shu didn't expect this mercenary to acknowledge her as his master and was speechless for a moment. The scarred mercenary looked at Ning Shu's strange expression and took a deep breath. "I swear to the heavens that I will never betray my master." The scarred mercenary kowtowed to Ning Shu. He kowtowed so sincerely that his forehead turned red. Ning Shu coughed. In fact, when others cultivated her secret manual, they would gain faith. The more faith there was, the more beneficial it was for the construction of the world. Ning Shu nodded. "Okay. Thank you, master." The scarred mercenary stood up. Because he was taller than Ning Shu, he bowed slightly and felt a little funny. Ning Shu sat cross-legged on the ground and said to her, "Sit down too. Now I will tell you how to cultivate." The scarred mercenary's eyes lit up and immediately sat cross-legged on the ground. Ning Shu explained the cultivation method of the peerless martial arts in detail and took a break. He was indeed a little tired after killing a few magical beasts. Absorb the energy of heaven and earth, connect the meridians, and finally gather it in the dantian. Ning Shu sat beside him and said. At the beginning, the spiritual energy would be absorbed by the body to repair the body's internal injuries or strengthen the muscles and bones. The scarred mercenary entered a meditative state while Ning Shu checked if there was any danger. Ning Shu looked at Xiao Qiao, who had many roots and vines, and tried to command her to check if there was any danger around. But Xiao Qiao didn't respond. Instead, she wrapped the vines around her ankle. Ning Shu was speechless. It seemed that this kind of thing was too complicated for a blade of grass. Ning Shu ordered her to let go of her ankle, but she wrapped it even tighter. Ning Shu entered his consciousness and communicated with the green ball of light. This ball of light only had one emotion, which was similar to pleasure. Ning Shu repeatedly communicated with her and almost couldn't control his temper. Xiao Chao's consciousness was very simple. Maybe because of the law contract, it was closer to her. As for the others, cough cough, take it slow. Now, he had to start collecting the ingredients for the wisdom pill. The scarred mercenary stopped and opened his eyes. Seeing Ning Shu staring at him, he quickly stood up. Master, how is your cultivation going? Ning Shu asked. The scarred mercenary shook his head. Disciple's aptitude is too low. I didn't feel the chi that Master was talking about. Take your time. Ning Shu said. The scarred mercenary was quite old. Plus, he was constantly on the move, so his body had many hidden injuries and impurities. It would take some time to cultivate Qi Jin. Little Bean was small, healthy, and had fewer impurities in his meridians. He was able to sense the Qi force very quickly. In a world with abundant spiritual Qi, a peerless martial art was simply a great killing machine that was always successful. But in a world with thin spiritual Qi, it was impossible to be that powerful. Master, what is the name of our cultivation? The scarred mercenary asked. Ning Shu thought for a moment. He couldn't possibly call it a peerless martial art. Then let's call it Do Qi, Do Qi. Do Qi. The scarred mercenary repeated and nodded. No wonder it's so powerful. The two of them continued to walk outside. Along the way, there were demonic beasts attacking them. Ning Shu didn't move temporarily and let Xiao Chao deal with them. Every time, she would beat the demonic beasts half to death, and this guy would pick up the food from behind. The further they went, the weaker the demonic beasts became. If this guy couldn't even deal with them, he must have fed him so many good things, but he was still so useless. As if sensing Ning Shu's mood, Xiao Chao stretched out her vines to entangle the demonic beast. However, the demonic beast was also alert. It didn't fight with her and ran away. Xiao Cao's vines stiffened. She didn't know what to do. She stretched out her vines and entangled Ning Shu's ankle. Ning Shu was speechless. After leaving the Death Mountain range, the scarred mercenary let out a long breath. Ning Shu said, Master, when we reach Death City, I will treat you to a meal. I'm not going back. I still have things to do. You can leave first. Ning Shu shook his head. He still had to find the ingredients to make the wisdom pill. Xiao Chao had always been a retard, but it wasn't a problem. She shouldn't even be considered a retard. He could also get some magic crystals to support his family. Master, I will wait for you in Death City. The scarred mercenary took the bag of dry food and water bottle from his waist. Master, keep them for yourself. Ning Shu didn't expect that his disciple would be so considerate. He took the bag and asked, What's your name? De Yong. Oh, De Yong, you can go now. Cultivate well. Ning Shu said and turned to enter the forest. It was indeed much easier to be alone. Ning Shu started to look for the ingredients to make the wisdom pill according to the characteristics of the spiritual items and the requirements of the soil. If he was hungry, he would eat the fasting pill. He didn't have to worry about others. Ning Shu found a few materials and even found a wisdom fruit tree. However, the wisdom fruit on the tree was not ripe yet. Just as she approached the wisdom fruit, just as she was about to approach the wisdom fruit tree, there was a magical beast that looked like a wasp but was much bigger than a wasp. It was about the size of a cup, and it swarmed towards her. It made her feel numb all over. She even had trypophobia. Ning Shu didn't even think and turned to run. Moreover, the wisdom fruit wasn't ripe yet, so there wasn't much use in plucking it. Ning Shu went to look for other ingredients. Anyway, the wisdom pill wasn't bad. After being nourished by countless magical beasts, Xiao Chao was now a little stronger than before. Now, when it encountered a magical beast, it would take the initiative to entangle itself and then use its roots to pierce the magical beast's body. Great, Xiao Qiao finally had some combat power now. It was no longer the weak Xiao Qiao from before. However, the price was quite scary. There were so many magic crystals and so much magical beast meat. If this was converted into gold coins, it would fill up an entire house of the Yu clan. Therefore, resources were too important. Those summoners that were nurtured by those clans were stronger than commoners. Help, help, Ning Shu could vaguely hear someone shouting for help. It was a woman's mournful voice. Ning Shu's expression didn't change as he asked Xiao Qiao, "Did you hear anyone shouting again?" Xiao Qiao obviously didn't understand what Ning Shu was talking about. However, Ning Shu was used to talking to Xiao Qiao, so it was always right to communicate more. Ning Shu felt that Xiao Cao's consciousness and emotions were a little stronger than before. Ning Shu followed the sound and finally saw two people entangled by the cannibal vines in the cannibal tree forest. He looked carefully. Oh, weren't they Miss Mu and Elderly who had run away with the lotus seeds? They were tightly entangled by the vines and had many wounds on their bodies. The veil on their faces was already gone, revealing a beautiful face with bright eyes and white teeth. However, they were now in a very sorry state. When Miss Mu saw Ning Shu, she was stunned for a moment. Obviously, she didn't expect that Ning Shu was still alive. The hunchbacked Elderly also frowned as he looked at Ning Shu. "I am the eldest daughter of the Mu clan. As long as you save me, the Mu clan will definitely reward you handsomely," Miss Mu said gently to Ning Shu. Ning Shu curled his lips. Previously, the Mu clan wanted to use him as bait. Chapter 10-11. Now, he even wanted her to save him. Ning Shu didn't think he was that stupid. Sensing an intruder, many cannibal trees stretched out their branches to entangle Ning Shu. Ning Shu used his dagger to cut off the tree vines reaching towards him. Xiao Qiao was still in a daze as it was the first time she met her own kind. She didn't know if it was a flash of inspiration or something else, but Xiao Cao's body gradually swelled up and then grew desperately. Finally, it lifted Ning Shu up into the sky. Ning Shu was speechless. Although it was a bit embarrassing, at least he knew how to save her. He had improved. Miss Mu and Elderly stared blankly at Ning Shu, who was lifted into the sky. However, Ning Shu was now facing an awkward situation. This thing was constantly growing. It was as if it was going to pierce through the heavens. "Stop, stop." Ning Shu patted the thick vines. It seemed that he didn't have enough energy, so it finally stopped growing. However, Ning Shu could reach out and touch the clouds. The entire mountain range was under her feet, overlooking the entire fallen mountain range. But, it was so high. Ning Shu patted Xiao Qiao. "Quickly put me down." Xiao Qiao was very confused. Ning Shu was speechless. Ning Shu could only hug the thick vines and slide down. There was no one else who could endure the friction until the crotch of his pants was torn. When he slid to the ground, Ning Shu's legs were trembling a little. Miss Mu was a bit speechless, but when she saw how strong this grass was, her heart was ignited with hope. "As long as you are willing to save us, you can have any reward you want," Miss Mu couldn't help but say to Ning Shu. She thought she could escape successfully, but she didn't expect to meet a giant mountain eagle in the sky. She was chased into the cannibal forest by the giant mountain eagle. In order to save her, Elderly was also entangled by the cannibal trees. In this cannibal forest, the cannibal trees were basically invincible. There were vines everywhere that could not be defended against, attacking people from unexpected angles. Any creature that entered the forest would become food for the man-eating trees. Ning Shu used his dagger to cut off the vines that were attacking him as he said, "I want 25 of your lotus seeds." The eldest daughter of the Mu family looked a little embarrassed. She had obtained more than 20 lotus seeds with great difficulty, but this woman actually asked for all of them. 25 is too much. Miss Mu could not help but say, "We can discuss it. I want 25. Are 25 lotus seeds not worth your life?" Ning Shu felt that there were more and more vines around him. He was a little flustered. Fresh blood spurted out from the broken branches. Xiao Qiao clumsily reached out her hand and wrapped her vines around the cannibal tree's branch. Ning Shu was speechless. "What's the point of wrapping yourself around the tree trunk?" Ning Shu couldn't help but facepalm when he saw how adorable she looked. There were more and more cannibal tree vines, and Ning Shu was a little overwhelmed. The vines were not magical beasts, so they could still entangle people after being cut off. Xiao Qiao pushed Ning Shu into the sky again, and the vines could not reach Ning Shu. Ning Shu decided to retreat. There was no point in tangling with these vines endlessly. Besides, she had no intention of saving people. Xiao Qiao pierced her roots into the cannibal tree's trunk, and blood flowed out along the trunk. In the end, she actually broke a tree. Ning Shu was speechless. Why did he feel that Xiao Cao's feeding instinct was a little terrifying? "Don't fight for now. Let's do it first." Miss Mu's expression was very painful because the cannibal tree's vines had pierced into her body and were sucking her blood. She didn't know what kind of liquid was injected into her body, but it made her body burn, as if it was going to rot. Ning Shu was expressionless. She had no intention of saving people. Even if the eldest daughter of the Mu family died in front of her, she wouldn't blink. Seeing that Ning Shu was indifferent, the eldest daughter of the Mu family was a little flustered. Her internal organs were burning, and it seemed like they were going to melt. "What do you want? The Mu family can give you anything. We can even give you 25 lotus seeds," the eldest daughter of the Mu family said anxiously. When Ning Shu heard her say that, she was even less willing to save people, let alone give a generous reward. It was good enough that she was not killed. The reputation of a big family was not something that a small commoner like her could destroy. The eldest daughter of the Mu family was also a proud person. If she was saved by her, the eldest daughter of the Mu family would probably lose a lot of face. "If you can save me, I can take you as my disciple. I am a consecrator of the Mu family, and I will definitely give you a good reward." Elder Li's face was a little pale. His summoned beast was already dead, turned into a pool of blood, and was absorbed by the cannibal tree. His internal organs were about to rot. Ning Shu said indifferently, "With your strength, how can you be her master? You still want to be her disciple and save her master. You." Elder Li's face turned even paler. Blood flowed out from the corner of his mouth, and it couldn't be stopped. After a few days of corrosion, his internal organs were no longer able to support his life. "Elder Li, Elder Li." Seeing Elder Li vomiting blood, Miss Mu panicked. She turned her head and begged Ning Shu, "Please save me, I beg you." At this moment, the eldest daughter of the Mu family had completely given up her dignity. Her life was the most important thing. Ning Shu tilted her head and didn't say anything. Now, she was just waiting for Miss Mu to die and get more than 20 lotus seeds. "Do you know who I am? As long as you save me, you can have anything." Miss Chen roared at Ning Shu. Her face was a little twisted because of the pain. Ning Shu didn't look at her. Instead, he looked around the mountain range. In the end, the eldest daughter of the Mu family couldn't withstand the corrosive power. She vomited blood and died. "Xiao Qiao, send me over," Ning Shu said to Xiao Qiao. Then, he couldn't help but shake his head. This guy didn't understand. Ning Shu hugged the thick vines and slid down. He didn't feel very good. The crotch of his pants was torn. Ning Shu waved his dagger and walked in front of the man-eating tree. He directly dragged Miss Mu's body away. There were branches and vines tightly wrapped around Miss Mu's body. Ning Shu cut the vines. Ning Shu dragged Miss Mu's body out of the man-eating tree's territory. Then, he searched Miss Mu's body from head to toe. In the end, he felt a box. Ning Shu opened the box. There was white smoke coming out of the box, and a chill came over him. Using this method to preserve the lotus seeds, Ning Shu threw a few lotus seeds into his mouth. What was the point of keeping them? The Mu family definitely knew that the eldest daughter of the Mu family was looking for lotus seeds. If the lotus seeds were sold on the market, it was very likely that she would be suspected. When the lotus seeds entered his mouth, they were ice cold. Ning Shu chewed a few times and swallowed. It was incomparably cold. It felt like a bucket of ice water on a hot summer day. An abundant amount of spiritual energy rushed into her dantian. It seemed like it wanted to break through her dantian, but it was all absorbed by the qi gene in her dantian. The qi gene seemed to be full and burped. Xiao Qiao went to Ning Shu's side. Ning Shu threw a lotus on the ground for her. Let's see how you eat without a mouth. Chapter 10-12. Ning Shu searched through all the treasures on Miss Mu's body and found a few purple gold coins. This was a currency that was of a higher grade than gold coins. It was indeed a gold belt for murder and arson. Ning Shu kept the purple gold coins. As for the other items, such as weapons that had the Mu family's symbol, Ning Shu didn't want them. Ning Shu put the purple gold coins in the cloth bag. Xiao Qiao actually stretched out her vines and wrapped them around Miss Mu's body. It seemed like she was going to absorb the body. Ning Shu was speechless. This thing couldn't be eaten. Ning Shu pulled the body by its legs and threw it into the man-eating tree forest. Immediately, the vines dragged Miss Mu's body away. Xiao Qiao was in a daze and didn't move for a long time. She watched as Ning Shu threw away his prey. Ning Shu patted the dust off his hands and said to Xiao Qiao, "Let me tell you, this thing can't be eaten. People with 2 legs can't eat it. He could do this to demonic beasts, but if he did this to humans, it would cause unnecessary trouble. Alright, let's go find the ingredients for the wisdom pill." Ning Shu walked away with his hands behind his back. Xiao Qiao floated up and floated around Ning Shu. Ning Shu killed the demonic beasts in front while Xiao Qiao collected the corpses from behind. Later on, Xiao Qiao killed the demonic beasts and destroyed the corpses while Ning Shu watched from behind. After staying in the Fallen Mountain range for a few days, they finally gathered all the ingredients for the wisdom pill. They happened to find a mature wisdom fruit tree. However, the wisdom fruit tree was guarded by a large swarm of wasps. Ning Shu stood far away and pointed at the red wisdom fruit. He said to Xiao Qiao, who was floating beside him, "See that? Eat that fruit and you won't be so retarded. Go and pick the wisdom fruit." Anyway, the vines weren't afraid of being stung. "Do you understand?" Ning Shu asked. Xiao Qiao circled around Ning Shu. Ning Shu could only helplessly say, "Don't you want that fruit? Go pick it." Xiao Qiao paused in front of Ning Shu for a moment before flying towards the fruit of wisdom. Ning Shu hurriedly retreated. If necessary, he would get rid of Xiao Qiao and run first. He didn't want to attract the hornets. Xiao Qiao flew to the front of the wisdom fruit and stretched out her dense vines. She wrapped them around the wisdom fruit tree and uprooted the tree. Then, Ning Shu dragged the fruit tree over. Ning Shu was speechless. Ning Shu looked at the overwhelming number of buzzing hornets swarming over. Oh my God! Ning Shu quickly turned around and ran. Xiao Qiao noticed that Ning Shu was running very fast, dragging the fruit tree behind him. Ning Shu was speechless. Ning Shu hurriedly ordered Xiao Qiao, "Let's split up." Xiao Qiao continued to drag Ning Shu along as she rushed over. Ning Shu was speechless. Ning Shu thought for a moment. When Xiao Qiao caught up with him, he would pick a few wisdom fruits from the tree and run for his life. As he ran, he scattered poisonous powder behind him. When he ran out of the fallen mountain range, Ning Shu was already exhausted. There were still buzzing sounds behind him. Ning Shu continued to run while panting. It was really an unbearable pain in life. That was why he was most afraid of a useless teammate tricking his teammate. This guy tricked his teammate with his own strength. Ning Shu was so angry. When he returned to Fallen City, Ning Shu planned to refine the wisdom pill. However, he needed to find a pill furnace. There probably wasn't one here. He had been out for a long time. It was time to go back. Ning Shu planned to rest for the night and return the next day. The harvest this time was quite good. The money he plundered from Miss Mu and some magic crystals were enough for him to get a pill furnace. "Master, you're back." Ning Shu walked into the inn and saw De Yong coming to greet him. "Master, I've been waiting for you for a long time. I was worried that something had happened to you." De Yong said happily. Ning Shu sat down and De Yong immediately ordered the dishes to be served. After the dishes were served, Ning Shu picked up his chopsticks and ate. He asked, "How's your cultivation?" "I don't feel anything else. My body has become much stronger." Although De Yong said that, his expression was joyful. He felt like his whole body was filled with energy. With strong hope, he would naturally be filled with energy. "Cultivate well." Ning Shu nodded. "Master, can you teach this kind of Duki secret manual to others?" De Yong looked at Ning Shu carefully. "Master, I want to form a team of Duki mercenaries. Maybe Duki can defeat a summoner." Ning Shu drank a mouthful of soup. "You're quite ambitious. You haven't even cultivated your Qi gene and you're already thinking so far ahead." "Master, it's not that I'm ambitious. I just want to rely on this to make a living." De Yong said. "If you don't agree, I won't reveal the Duki secret manual." "It's okay. You can reveal it." Ning Shu said casually. The more people who cultivated it, the more power of faith she would gain. As long as they cultivated her secret manual, they would gain power of faith. "Thank you, Master." De Yong quickly thanked him. Ning Shu booked a room in the inn and gave a few wisdom fruits to Xiao Chao to absorb. He planned to go back the next day. Soon, the academy would start school. "Master, I'll go back with you." De Yong followed Ning Shu out of Fallen City. Ning Shu didn't say anything. Along the way, Ning Shu tried to communicate with the green ball of light in his consciousness. After eating a few wisdom fruits, Xiao Chao's consciousness had become much richer and her emotions were much stronger. There was excitement, joy, and dependence. If she ate more wisdom pills, Xiao Chao's intelligence would gradually increase. He really couldn't stand this kind of partner who cheated her teammates. However, there was a problem now. Xiao Chao wanted to stretch out her vines to wrap around any living thing other than Ning Shu and use them as her food. There were a few times when she stretched out her vines to wrap around De Yong and drag him away. Every time Xiao Chao did this, Ning Shu would release his very unhappy emotions. Feeling that Ning Shu was unhappy, Xiao Chao would retract her vines and wrap them around Ning Shu's wrist. "I've said it before. This kind of living thing with 2 legs like your master can't be eaten." Ning Shu reminded her again. Xiao Chao turned into a green grass the size of a palm and swayed in front of Ning Shu. Ning Shu pushed away the grass that was blocking his eyes. "You don't have to follow me. Go do what you need to do," Ning Shu said to De Yong when they returned to the imperial capital. De Yong sent Ning Shu to the door and told Ning Shu to take care of himself before leaving. Ning Shu opened the door and saw the little bean sitting cross-legged on the floor cultivating. Ning Shu walked in quietly. It seemed like he had to set up a spirit-gathering formation in the house. It was necessary to let the Yu clan members cultivate peerless martial arts. Although it couldn't make them strong, it could strengthen their bodies. The two elders of the Yu clan were the kind of people who were tired for a long time. If they cultivated peerless martial arts, their bodies would be much better. Ning Shu took out the gold coins from his bag and placed them on the table. He stared at the little bean as she cultivated. The little bean stopped and saw Ning Shu staring at her. She immediately stood up and ran over in surprise. "Sister, you're back." "Yes, how's your cultivation?" Ning Shu smiled and asked the little bean. Chapter 10:13. Sister, what is this? It's amazing. I can lift a table now. The little boy raised his arms. For a 5 or 6-year-old child to lift a table, the strength was a bit shocking. "Have you cultivated Qi Jin?" Ning Shu asked. "Yes, it's swimming in my stomach." The little boy jumped and said. "Sister will teach you how to release your Qi Jin. Use your mental strength." Ning Shu taught the little boy how to release his Qi Jin. However, the little boy was small and his ability to understand was limited, so Ning Shu let him practice more on his own. His mother-in-law came back, looking tired. When she saw Ning Shu, she sighed in relief. "You're finally back. Your father and I were worried to death when we didn't hear from you for so long." "Mother, I'm fine." Ning Shu gave the money bag on the table to his mother-in-law. "In the future, don't wash and mend clothes. I'm strong now and can support the family." His mother-in-law took the money bag and felt the weight inside. She couldn't help but change her expression. She opened it and saw that it was full of shiny gold coins. His mother-in-law was a bit panicked. "Where did this money come from?" "I got some magic crystals and sold it for money. Don't wash clothes in the future." Ning Shu said, "Let's make some delicious food at home. You have to save this money." His mother-in-law put away the money bag and hid it. His mother-in-law was a bit afraid of suddenly becoming rich. Ning Shu couldn't help but say, "Mother, it's okay. This time, my summoned beast is a lot stronger." Ning Shu released Xiao Qiao. Ning Shu told Xiao Qiao to make its appearance more beautiful. This time, Xiao Qiao obeyed. As soon as it came out, its vines covered the whole room, even the roof. The roots dug deep into the floor. The floor of the room looked like it had been plowed again. Ning Shu facepalmed. "What the fuck?" His mother-in-law was in a daze. She didn't seem to react. "Sister, you're amazing. You're amazing." The little boy clapped his hands. "I knew that sister would become a powerful summoner." Ning Shu put Xiao Qiao away. The floor was unbearable to look at. His handsomeness only lasted for 3 seconds. "How did you do it?" Mother-in-law Ning Shu asked. "How did your summoned beast suddenly become so powerful?" "When she went out to train, she absorbed some magic crystals and magical beast corpses," Ning Shu explained. His mother-in-law nodded. "I see. It's good that you're strong. It's good that you can protect yourself." His mother-in-law's eyes were a little red. Ning Shu said, "Mother, you don't have to wash or sew clothes anymore. I can support you now." Okay, I'll go cook." The mother-in-law put away the gold coins. Ning Shu planned to go out and get a pill furnace to start refining the wisdom pill. He said to his mother-in-law, "I have something to do, so I have to go out." "Okay, come back quickly." His mother-in-law's voice was much lighter. Ning Shu went to the shop to see if there were any pill furnaces. Ning Shu thought that this world didn't have alchemy furnaces, but he didn't expect that alchemy furnaces existed. Pharmacists used alchemy furnaces to refine medicinal properties. From the looks of it, potions were more like half-finished pills that had yet to be refined. Ning Shu bought a slightly more expensive alchemy furnace. Inferior alchemy furnaces could easily explode, and the ingredients for the wisdom pill were not easy to find. If the furnace exploded, it would mean that the refining process had failed. Ning Shu carried the alchemy furnace home. His father-in-law had already returned and was filling up the fluffy mud in the house. "Why did you buy this?" Yu Xing asked. "It's to practice refining potions. This is a task given by my mentor." Ning Shu put down the alchemy furnace and said to Yu Xing, "Father, can you help me build a hole in the furnace so that I can start a fire?" Most pharmacists' summoned beasts were of the fire element. They could be used to refine potions. However, some ordinary ones could only use firewood. Ning Shu planned to use firewood, and the fire was not easy to control. "Okay." Yu Xing agreed without hesitation. Ning Shu took out a spirit marrow crystal and placed it in the eye of the array. He chanted and set up a spirit gathering array. With sufficient spirit qi, it was easier to refine pills, and the quality was better. After eating, Ning Shu started to teach the two elders of the Yu clan to learn the ultimate martial arts. The two elders of the Yu clan shook their heads and said that they were too old to cultivate. Cultivating the ultimate martial arts did not depend on age. Ning Shu forced the two of them to cultivate. In the beginning, the two of them could not grasp the key points and wanted to give up. Ning Shu let the little bean supervise from the side. Sometimes, the little bean would even lift a table to scare his parents. Ning Shu also started to refine the pills. He had to make sure that he succeeded in one try because there was only one set of ingredients for the wisdom pill. Ning Shu stirred the flames under the alchemy furnace. Then, he opened the lid of the furnace and threw all kinds of spiritual herbs and spiritual fruits into the furnace. He used his spiritual energy to control the ingredients in the furnace. Ning Shu stayed beside the alchemy furnace for a few days. During this period, no one was allowed to disturb him. When he was hungry, he would eat fasting pills. After a few days, the alchemy furnace started to emit the fragrance of pills. Ning Shu used his spiritual energy to check the situation in the furnace. It was about to start to condense. As long as the condensation was successful, it meant that the pill refining was successful. Luckily, he had learned how to refine pills from the kelp and how to set up a formation. Although it was hard to learn, when it was really needed, he was very glad that he had learned this skill. Xiao Chao was a plant, and so was the kelp. They could be considered as a species. Ning Shu clenched his teeth and used more spiritual energy to condense the pills. After persisting for half a day, the wisdom pill condensed into a pill. Ning Shu sat on the ground, exhausted. Xiao Chao had been circling around Ning Shu. It was obvious that it had smelled the scent of the wisdom pill. Ning Shu wiped the sweat on his forehead. He got up and opened the lid of the furnace. There were a few pills inside. Ning Shu counted, there were 6 pills. It was pretty good. Although it was not as good as the kelp's 9 pills every time it refined pills, the kelp was not an old monster who had lived for who knew how long. Ning Shu put away the wisdom pill and threw one to Xiao Chao. Xiao Chao's roots pierced into the pill, and the pill disappeared in a short while. This absorption ability was simply terrifying. The green ball of light in his consciousness grew a little bigger, and it gave Ning Shu a burst of joy and desire. Xiao Chao stretched out her vines and wrapped them around Ning Shu's ankle. She even used her leaves to gently scratch Ning Shu's skin. Ning Shu. So itchy. Ning Shu then threw a wisdom pill to her, and the wisdom pill was immediately absorbed. Xiao Chao used her leaves to gently scratch Ning Shu. Ning Shu gave her another pill and said, "Save these for later." Ning Shu stretched. His whole body was covered in dust. His face was white and his eyes were blue. He looked very haggard. After washing up, he greeted his mother-in-law and planned to take a nap to replenish his energy. The academy will start the day after tomorrow. Don't sleep for too long. His mother-in-law said. Ning Shu waved his hand, "I know." Xiao Chao also started to digest the power of the wisdom pill. After being summoned back to the summoning space by Ning Shu, she fell into a deep sleep. Chapter 10:14. Ning Shu slept until noon the next day. When he woke up, he was full of energy. Shuang Shuang, take your little brother to the Summoners Union to test if he can become a summoner. He's already 6 years old, Yu Xing and Ning Shu said, their eyes filled with anticipation. If their son was a summoner, then the Yu family would rise. If both siblings were summoners, then the Yu family would be able to get rid of their poor status. Ning Shu nodded. Okay. Ning Shu held the little bean's hand and walked towards the union. Ning Shu asked the little bean, "Are you nervous?" "No. I'm not nervous." The little bean's voice was trembling. Ning Shu smiled and said, "Even if you can't become a summoner, with your current strength, normal summoners are no match for you." The little bean clenched his fist and punched someone. If they were weaker, they would be knocked down immediately. "Dad wants me to be a summoner." The little bean pouted and was about to cry. Summoners were the mainstream power system now. Everyone was proud of being a summoner and being able to summon beasts. Ning Shu smiled and said, "As long as you're strong, as long as you can protect yourself, as long as you can kill beasts, it doesn't matter if you're a summoner or not." One of the drawbacks of being a summoner was that their power came from their summoned beasts. They relied on their summoned beasts to fight. Summoned beasts weren't immortal creatures, they had to die too. When a summoned beast died, the summoner had to summon a new one to form a contract with, and then have to train a new one. It was so tough. Power had to be in your own hands. If you can't become a summoner, then we'll become a fighting family. Ning Shu patted the little bean's shoulder. Fighting family. The little bean's eyes lit up. It sounds very powerful. Ning Shu brought the little bean into the union. Someone took the little bean to test. Ning Shu waited outside. Half an hour later, the little bean came out from inside. He held his head and looked dispirited as if he had suffered a huge blow. Ning Shu looked at him and knew that he had failed. It was rare for a commoner to become a summoner. Yu Shuang was very lucky to become one. Yu Jun is unable to become a summoner. Wah! Little Bean jumped into Ning Shu's arms and cried. The surrounding people were not surprised by this. There were too many people who failed every day. Ning Shu carried Little Bean out of the union. "Sister, Dad will be disappointed that I didn't become a summoner," the little boy said as he wiped his tears. Ning Shu patted Little Bean's face. "Smile and live on. Little Bean. Big sister, I'm so sad right now that I can't smile." Ning Shu's expression was relaxed. If you can't become a summoner, then you have to train your body well and develop your body's potential. Big sister didn't lie when she said that she wanted to establish a Do Chi family. "But I want to have a summoned beast like Xiao Chao to play with me." Little Bean wasn't that sad anymore, but she wasn't satisfied that she didn't become a summoner. Ning Shu couldn't help but want to roll his eyes at Xiao Cao's summoned beast. With the resources he had spent on Xiao Chao, he didn't know how many summoned beasts he could have nurtured. However, the advantages of becoming stronger were obvious, but the prerequisite was that he was willing to invest. Therefore, nurturing plant-type summoned beasts wasn't as cost-effective as animal-type summoned beasts. "You're a man. Wipe your tears." Ning Shu wiped the tears off Little Bean's face with his sleeve and prepared to go to the mercenary union to find the scarred mercenary. When he arrived at the mercenary union, he saw the scarred mercenary talking to a few people. The scarred mercenary vaguely looked like he was the leader. "De Yong," Ning Shu called out to him. When the others saw a 17-year-old girl with a child called De Yong, they had a strange expression on their faces. One of them asked De Yong, "When did you have a wife and a child? What nonsense are you talking about?" "Shut up," De Yong said with a dark face. Ning Shu hurried over. "Master, why are you here?" De Yong bowed slightly to Ning Shu. Ning Shu waved his hand. You don't have to be like this outside. Let's go to the restaurant to talk. I have something to tell you. Ning Shu held Little Bean's hand. When they arrived at the restaurant, De Jong ordered a few dishes. Seeing that there was a child present, he also ordered a few snacks. Little Bean picked up the snacks from the plate and ate them. Ning Shu asked De Jong, how's your cultivation going? I can feel a trace of qi, but my cultivation speed is slow. De Jong said. Take it slow. Don't worry about cultivation. Ning Shu looked at De Jong and asked, you said that you wanted to form a mercenary team. How's it going? There are already a few members. I've already taught them the Do Qi cultivation method. De Jong said while observing Ning Shu's expression. This kind of secret manual that could be cultivated regardless of talent. If it was someone else, they would definitely keep it to themselves and not give it out so generously. Ning Shu nodded. Are you willing to join the Yu clan? You don't need to be surnamed Yu. You just need to be a Yu clan disciple. Anyone who cultivates Do Qi must remember the Yu clan. The Yu clan will develop into a Do Qi clan in the future. Master, what do you need me to do? De Jong was someone who had struggled for half his life. He understood his master's situation very well. It would be difficult for the Yu clan to form a clan. Ning Shu raised his eyebrows and looked at De Jong. De Jong said, I'm willing. Do what you normally do. If the Yu clan encounters any danger in the future, I hope that you can help. Ning Shu said. Yes, Master has given me a new life. If I can repay Master, I will definitely repay Master. De Jong said sincerely. His life was saved by Yu Yang, and she had even taught him the Do Qi secret manual. Ning Shu saw that Little Bean was almost done eating, so he said goodbye to De Jong. Big sister, why did that uncle call you Master? Little Bean Ning Shu asked. It's just a title. Little Bean will definitely become a powerful Do Qi master in the future. Only when you are strong will you be strong. Ning Shu said with certainty. When a peerless martial artist reached the later stages, they could even contend with a cultivator. Big sister, I will definitely become a strong person. Yu Yang's father-in-law was disappointed when he learned that his son wasn't a summoner. Little Bean patted his chest and said, I will become a Do Qi master in the future. Ning Shu said, Father, Mother, you should also cultivate well. This secret manual was given to me by an expert. That expert is very powerful, even more powerful than a summoner. The two elders of the Yu clan nodded. When school started, Ning Shu met Lien Frost Dream at the school gate. Ning Shu felt that he hadn't seen Lien Frost Dream in a long time. Lien Frost Dream had become much stronger. A beautiful bird stood on her shoulder. Its entire body was red, as if it was bathing in fire. This should be one of Lien Frost Dream's summoned beasts. Her summoned beasts were either dragons or phoenixes. They were all top-level summoned beasts, and not just one or two of them. Her starting point was thousands of miles away from others. Chapter 10-15. Lien Frost Dream was surrounded by several people, all of them were influential figures of the academy. The men were handsome and the women were beautiful. Ning Shu didn't plan on having any entanglements with Lien Frost Dream. In any case, Yi Shuangshuang's wish was to become stronger and defeat Lien Frost Dream. In any case, the academy had a competition a month from now to test a student's control over their summoned beasts. This competition was extremely important and the winner would receive all sorts of rewards. In such an occasion, defeating Lien Frost Dream fair and square was a good idea. Yu Shuangshuang. Lien Frost Dream shouted out as she saw Ning Shu. Ning Shu was a bit helpless. He planned to walk away and pretend he hadn't heard anything. Yu Shuangshuang, Ning Shu turned and walked towards Lien Frost Dream, greeting her, long time no see. I haven't seen you for a vacation. Where have you been? Lien Frost Dream took out 2 demon crystals and handed them to Ning Shu. Here, for you. These are the demon crystals we obtained from adventuring. Your summoned beasts are too weak. These are too precious. I can't take them. Ning Shu waved his hand. I'm giving them to you, so take them. Lien Frost Dream gave the demon crystals to Ning Shu. Ning Shu smiled and received the demon crystals. He took out a fruit of wisdom and said, "This is my return gift." In terms of value, a fruit of wisdom was far more precious than a demon crystal. As Lien Frost Dream saw the bright red fruit of wisdom in Ning Shu's hand, she asked with some disbelief, "Where did you get this fruit of wisdom from? I remember that you didn't take it when I gave it to you last time." Lien Frost Dream took the fruit of wisdom and looked at it. This was indeed a fruit of wisdom, but how could something like this be on Yu Shuangshuang's body? Seeing Lien Frost Dream's doubtful expression, Ning Shu felt an unprecedented carefree feeling in his heart. This wasn't Ning Shu's mood, but a feeling of grievance that was hidden in Yu Shuangshuang's heart. Now that he could take out something that surpassed Lien Frost Dreams, he felt as if he could straighten his back. Endless charity and endless demands were the same. One was unable to repay and the other was unable to support. I obtained this by accident. Since you gave me the magic crystal, I'll give you the wisdom fruit, Ning Shu said. Lien Frost Dream tightly frowned. She grabbed onto Ning Shu's wrist. "Yu Shuangshuang, did something happen to you?" Even Frost Dream didn't believe that Yu Shuangshuang would be able to obtain something like this. After all, Yu Shuangshuang had even taken back the silver coin that the trade union had given her. Things like the wisdom fruit were easily worth tens of thousands of gold coins. Nothing happened to me. I got the wisdom fruit cleanly. It's not what you think, Ning Shu said calmly. Alright, since she's willing to use the wisdom fruit to exchange, then let's exchange. Mu Ziki said lightly, since she's willing to puff herself up at her own cost, then we'll fulfill her wish. Usually, these commoners use an inexplicable sense of pride to hide their inferiority. Mu Ziki's expression was indifferent. Ning Shu glanced at Mu Ziki and remembered the eldest daughter of the Mu family who had died in the man-eating tree forest. Looking at Mu Ziki's calm appearance, he guessed that she wasn't his biological sister. Large families had many branch families, so who knew what was going on with the Mu family's young miss? Keep your wisdom fruit, I don't want your wisdom fruit. As for the demon crystals, they aren't anything precious, so you can keep them too. Lien Frost Dream tossed the wisdom fruit to Ning Shu. Ning Shu caught the wisdom fruit and tossed the 2 demon crystals to Lien Frost Dream. "I have no reason to take your things." He couldn't figure out why Lien Frost Dream would always give things to others without even asking them if they needed them. She insisted on showing off her true beauty and kindness. She said that she treated others as friends, but in reality she treated them like dogs and would even give them a bone. She had to live under the shadow of a single person for the rest of her life. Others didn't even know her name. When they saw her, they would say that she was Lien Frost Dream's lackey, and that her family was poor and had to rely on Lien Frost Dream's help. Lien Frost Dream caught the demon crystals and frowned. "I think you're a very strange person. I treat you as a friend and do everything I can to make you stronger, but you're actually like this. You're so shy and not generous at all. Is taking my things so shameful for you?" Lien Frost Dream coldly said, "I only treat you as a friend and want you to become stronger as soon as possible." What are you saying so much to her for? She's just jealous of your talent and your powerful summoned beasts. Friends always compare themselves to each other, so she's jealous of you. Mu Ziki said to Lien Frost Dream. If I met such a person, I wouldn't even bother with them. If they're mud on the ground, they'll always be mud on the ground. You're the only one who insists on sticking your warm face to my cold butt. People of different paths cannot make plans together, so if you can't walk together then why stick together? Commoners like to use this method to show that they view money as nothing but dirt. You're clearly weak in the heart, yet you still pretend to be like that, the dragon-like man beside Lien Frost Dream snappily said. Ning Shu's expression was light. Wasn't it normal for people to be jealous and feel inferior? But Yu Shuang was by Lien Frost Dream's side. As long as she did something that made Lien Frost Dream unhappy, she would be labeled as someone who didn't know what was good for her, someone who only had the pitiful self-esteem of a commoner. She didn't want to be friends with Lien Frost Dream. You don't know what's good for you, she gave you something and you didn't want it. You don't know what's good for you, she didn't want to accept it. She would rather see Lien Frost Dream act high and mighty, and she would rather Lien Frost Dream ignore her. This was a friendship with an incomparably great disparity in strength. Lien Frost Dream also felt wronged. She had tried to be friends with Yu Shuang for her sake, but in the end this was the result she received. This was simply inexplicable. Do as you wish. If you need anything in the future you can come find me. Lien Frost Dream's expression was light as she turned and walked away. Thank you. Ning Shu thanked her. It was clear that she didn't know what was good for her. Even Frost Dream didn't want to care about her anymore. Mud couldn't support a wall. Ning Shu entered the classroom and sat down beside Lien Frost Dream. Lien Frost Dream didn't even glance at Ning Shu. Ning Shu was happy and carefree. He took out a book from the bookshelf at the back of the classroom and read it. Occasionally, he would look into the space of his consciousness and see a mass of green light tumbling about, gradually growing. Little Grass was still in a deep slumber. It was likely that she had absorbed too much energy recently. After waking up, she should have made a qualitative breakthrough. Ning Shu hoped that Little Grass would grow some brains. Her ability was already quite good. After all, she had killed many demon beasts in the Fallen Mountain range. Just the twining vines were enough to give him a headache. As Lien Frost Dream saw Ning Shu staring at the book in a daze, she tapped her finger on the table. Ning Shu regained his composure and looked at Lien Frost Dream with a puzzled expression. Yu Shuang, are you hiding something from me? It doesn't matter if you're weak, but it's a bit shameful for you to betray your own soul. Even Frost Dream was suspicious of where Ning Shu's fruit of wisdom had come from. Ning Shu faintly smiled. Selling my own soul and personality isn't shameful. What's shameful is that I can't sell it for a good price. Preposterous logic. Lien Frost Dream stared at Ning Shu. I consider you a friend and don't want your soul or personality. Yet, you think I'm trying to harm you? Chapter 10:16. Lien Frost Dream had never seen such a sensitive and imaginative person like Yu Shuang. In the past, when she went on missions with her mercenary companions, they always got along quite well. How come Yu Shuang was different from those forthright mercenaries? Yu Shuang, I'm just worried that you've gone down the wrong path. Why are you so excited? Lien Frost Dream frowned. I think you've changed. You were at least kind and cute before, but now that I've become stronger, you've become so shy. Lien Frost Dream was just short of directly saying that Ning Shu was jealous of her. You're strong and I'm weak. We're not suited to be friends. Ning Shu bluntly said. It was as if there was an iron pot lid placed on top of an exquisite porcelain pot. If they had to be together, it would feel quite out of place. When I was weak, you were very good to me. Now that I'm strong enough to protect you, you're actually acting like this. You're really unreasonable. Lien Frost Dream's complexion was ugly. I hope that we can be companions moving forward together. Ning Shu, in truth, Lien Frost Dream subconsciously despised her for being too weak. Otherwise, why hadn't she been invited to join the mercenary group? She also knew that if she joined, she would only be a hindrance. To say that they would be strong together was simply a joke. You have your point of view and I have mine. It can only be said that we can't be together. Yu Shuang, if you need anything, I can lend it to you. When you're strong enough, you can return it to me. Lien Frost Dream said. Selling yourself won't last long. Ning Shu flipped through his book and smiled. I didn't sell myself out, and it's not what you think. If you want to know where the fruit of wisdom came from, would you believe me if I said that I plucked it myself? Lien Frost Dream didn't speak, her eyebrows filled with disbelief. See, even if she spoke the truth, no one would believe her. Teacher Wen walked in wearing his teacher's robes. He gently said, the competition held by the academy will begin in a month, so during this time everyone must step up their training. There will be a prize for the winner. Teacher Wen's voice was particularly gentle, making Ning Shu feel as if he were soaking in a hot spring. Now, let's go to the training room. While the others were training, Ning Shu sat in a corner and watched the others duel. Even Frost Dream was able to instantly kill everyone present. Moreover, she didn't seem to need any effort at all. Even Frost Dream is so powerful, that's right, and this is only one of her summoned beasts. Her other summoned beasts are all very powerful, beautiful and powerful. I heard that the fourth prince and Muziki both like her. What a goddess. Ning Shu listened to the words of these onlookers. Lien Frost Dream was indeed quite charming. With her strong self-esteem, she was at least more attractive than those women who relied on men. Ning Shu didn't want to fight to the death with her. The original host only hoped that she could be strong enough to defeat Lien Frost Dream. In the academy battle a month from now, he would defeat Lien Frost Dream in such a situation. Ning Shu had a doubt in his mind. Just what was that beat on Frost Dream's body? Even Frost Dream had gone from trash to a genius. Moreover, she had such a powerful soul force to control so many summoned beasts. Where's your flower pot? Mentor Wen asked as he looked at Ning Shu playing with his nails. Ning Shu stood up, I put it away. Little Grass was currently in a deep sleep. Who knew when she would wake up? If Little Grass didn't wake up in a month, then she would have to go up to the arena by herself. If you have nothing to do, communicate with your summoned beasts. Mentor Wen seemed to remember that Ning Shu's summoned beast was just a blade of grass, so he didn't know what to say. Train them. Okay. Ning Shu nodded. You should go to the plant department class as soon as possible. That way you can have targeted training. Mentor Wen said. Thank you, Mentor. Ning Shu nodded. The truth was that she wanted to go to the plant department class. The plant department class would only accept those with talent. Even if they were plants, they would have powerful summoned beasts. For instance, man-eating flowers and such, plants with powerful killing power. Yu Shuang wasn't able to enter the plant department class, so she was sent to this class. She felt really stifled. Moreover, the cost of cultivating the plant department wasn't something that Yu Shuang could afford. Mentor Wen thought for a moment and gently said to Ning Shu, you can also cultivate as a martial master. But if you become a martial master, you will at least have the ability to protect yourself. But most girls can't stand that kind of pain. Mentor Wen suggested to Ning Shu. A martial master simply couldn't become strong. It was just a bit of martial arts, just like how an iron palm required one to use their hands to shovel sand every day. However, Ning Shu was still very grateful for Mentor Wen's advice. Thank you, Mentor. You are my student. I hope that all of my students can become powerhouses. Mentor Wen gently said. Ning Shu really wanted to give Mentor Wen a thumbs up. What a good mentor. He really was a generous person. Mentor, I have a question for you. Lien Frost Dream walked over and said to Mentor Wen. Mentor Wen gently nodded, what is it? Why can't I summon several beasts at the same time? Why can't I summon one at a time? Lien Frost Dream asked. Ning Shu was speechless. Even a top student's question was so awesome. It's related to mental strength. Practice more. Mentor Wen was very gentle. Your starting point is higher than others. Take it slow and gradually increase the number of summons. The two of them walked away as they spoke. Ning Shu inexplicably felt that there was something between Lien Frost Dream and Mentor One. When Mentor One was talking to her, Lien Frost Dream had to interrupt the conversation. However, Mentor One was truly handsome. Most importantly, he was gentle like jade, gentle and powerful, mature and steady. He had heard that Mentor Wen's summoned beast was a golden dragon. Moreover, it was an adult golden dragon. It was powerful enough to destroy the heavens and earth. Ning Shu looked at Lien Frost Dream and Mentor One as they spoke. The two of them standing together were very pleasing to the eye. Ning Shu put away his gossipy heart and looked into his spiritual space. He saw that little grass-green ball of light had grown larger and was gradually growing stronger. Ning Shu tried to communicate with little grass, but the other side didn't respond at all. This girl was really sleeping like a log. In the training room, all sorts of summoned beasts were tangled together. After the battle ended, Mentor One would instruct the students and tell them where their weaknesses were. Ning Shu sat down on the floor and began to cultivate. The energy in her dantian had already taken the shape of a dragon, but she didn't know whether or not it would take the shape of a golden dragon. Once it did, her combat strength would be even greater. You Shuang, Mentor has already left and you're still sleeping. Lien Frost Dream nudged Ning Shu. Ning Shu opened his eyes. He saw that Lien Frost Dream's face was flushed red, making her look even more beautiful. He was even more sure that Lien Frost Dream liked Mentor One. He never thought that the powerful Lien Frost Dream would like a man like Mentor One. Ning Shu stood up. Lien Frost Dream looked down at Ning Shu and shook her head. Chapter 10:17. Ning Shu looked at Lien Frost Dream's disappointed expression and was a bit puzzled. Why was she looking at him like that? Lien Frost Dream said to Ning Shu, "How come you're sleeping during class? Your dispirited appearance really makes people worried." Ning Shu patted the dust off his butt and looked at Lien Frost Dream. "You know that my summoned beast is a blade of grass, so how can it fight? She had basically come here to watch. The strong will always be strong. Look at you sleeping like that." Lien Frost Dream let out a long breath. "I don't even know what to say to you." This was a top student, it was impossible to communicate with a trash student. At lunchtime, Ning Shu returned home. He saw the little bean sitting cross-legged on the sofa, cultivating. Such a small person sitting cross-legged on the sofa was tiny. His mother-in-law was placing dishes on the table. Lunch was much more sumptuous, there were 2 dishes and meat. Now that the family had some money, his mother-in-law was happy to improve the family's food. Not to mention, cultivating a peerless martial art required a massive amount of energy. His mother-in-law's complexion was much better than before. She didn't work day and night, and in addition to cultivating a peerless martial art, her body would only become better and better. "Mother." Ning Shu sat down. His mother-in-law smiled at Ning Shu and said, "You're back. Wait for your father to come back and then we'll eat." Ning Shu propped up his chin and looked at his mother-in-law. He smiled and said, "I think mother has become much more beautiful." "Nonsense." His mother-in-law tapped Ning Shu's nose. "I'm old. I can't compare to when I was young. Mother, you should go buy some jewelry. It'll definitely look good." Ning Shu smiled and said, "In any case, the family has some money now. We're not as poor as before. Mother should dress up and be happy with father." "Nonsense. It's not easy for the family to have some money, so don't spend it recklessly." Although his mother-in-law was scolding Ning Shu, she still had a smile on her face. It was clear that her life had become much more relaxed recently, and she was also much more relaxed. Money is earned to be spent. If there's no more money, I'll go earn it. Ning Shu propped up his chin and said. "Now, If they went to some dangerous places to kill some magical beasts and get some magic crystals, their family would have some money. As long as one was strong, it would be easy to earn some money. However, if one was weak, it would be difficult to earn money. Sister, you're back. Little Bean jumped off the sofa and threw himself into Ning Shu's arms. Ning Shu was pushed back by Little Bean's momentum and coughed twice. Little Bean, you have to control your power, okay? Ning Shu squatted down and held Little Bean's shoulders. Don't always cultivate. Go out and play with other children. What's so fun about that? They can't even beat me, so they have to go home and complain to the adults. It's not fun at all, Little Bean said with a pout. See? Sister said it. As long as you cultivate properly, you will surely become very strong, Ning Shu said with a chuckle. Little Bean nodded. I will definitely be very strong. I will protect you all. His father-in-law came back for dinner and went back to work. Ning Shu went back to his room to cultivate. Because the Yu family had a spirit-gathering formation, there was an abundance of spiritual energy. It was especially easy to cultivate. When it was time to go to school, Ning Shu went to school. Ning Shu felt that it was useless for him to go to school. He could only watch others train their summoned beasts. More than a month's time passed very quickly, and the academy's competition was about to begin. Little Grass still hadn't woken up. He didn't know how long it would sleep. Ning Shu tried to communicate with the green ball of light. Before, there was no reply. This time, there was a response. A soft voice sounded in his mind. Master, Ning Shu was shocked. Did the intelligence of a single-celled organism develop into that of a human? You're awake. Ning Shu summoned Little Grass. Little Grass floated in front of Ning Shu. It didn't seem to have changed. How much have you grown this time? Let me see. Ning Shu crossed his legs and asked. Master, look carefully. An incomparably soft girl's voice sounded. Little Grass grew a lot of vines. Ning Shu looked at it. There was no difference. A lot of leaves grew on the vines, and a lot of flower buds emerged. All of the flower buds bloomed in an instant, and it was simply magnificent. Oh, you know how to be beautiful. Ning Shu looked at the flowers on the vines and said speechlessly. Master. Little Grass felt wronged. My flower's pollen can be parasitic. It can grow a lot of grass. This. It was very powerful. Not bad, not bad. Ning Shu said with a smile. Now it not only had entanglement, it also had the lethality of parasitism. It was a bit like a spore. Feeling Ning Shu's happiness, Little Grass stretched out its leaves and scratched Ning Shu. Thank you, Master. However, Ning Shu was most happy that Little Grass had intelligence. Although its speech was immature, it had intelligence and could communicate. However, until now, they could only rely on their telepathy. He heard that when a summoned beast became strong, it could become a human. He wondered if Little Grass had the chance to become a human. Ning Shu gave the rest of the wisdom pill to Little Grass. Drop the pollen on my body and see what effect it has. Ning Shu said. Master, the pollen will hurt a lot when it touches your body. It will also grow grass. Little Grass's voice was unusually soft and cute. Just by hearing this voice, Ning Shu felt like a soft and cute loli was standing in front of him, staring at him with watery eyes. Damn, did he think she didn't read books? How could pollen grow into grass? Didn't only seeds grow into grass? It's nothing. I just want to try. Can you control the pollen? The vines wrapped around Ning Shu's ankles. Flowers bloomed one after another. It was very beautiful. No one would have thought that such beautiful flowers would have hidden killing intent. When the pollen touched his skin, Ning Shu instantly felt like something had pierced his skin. It was very painful. It was as if something had taken root and sprouted in his flesh. Hurry up and withdraw. Ning Shu grimaced. Little Grass quickly put away the vines that wrapped around Ning Shu. She had obtained a new skill. Although Little Grass was small and weak, her vitality was much stronger than those summoned beasts. Even if the vines were cut off, there would be no loss to her. But to raise Little Grass, Ning Shu had spent a great deal of time and effort. The bitterness in his heart wasn't something that others could understand. Very good, very good. Ning Shu praised Little Grass. Like this, his chances of defeating Lien Frost Dream in the competition had increased by several degrees. Ning Shu dreaded that mysterious bead. Lien Frost Dream definitely had many cards in her hands. Although she had several powerful summoned beasts, who knew how many she could summon? With the support of the mysterious bead, Lien Frost Dream was definitely stronger than she appeared. Master, Master. Little Grass called out to Ning Shu in a soft voice. What is it? I just want to call you Master. Ning Shu thought he suddenly had a restless feeling in his heart. He used to think that Little Grass was mentally retarded, but now that she had developed her own intelligence, she was developing in the direction of a chatterbox. Chapter 10-18. The Academy's finals were a one-on-one competition. Several arenas were held at the same time, and then the top 50 would be selected for a duel. The battles between the top 50 were what could be called intense and exciting. This was just a warm-up match. Ning Shu was currently fighting with a student whose summoned beast was a wolf. When the boy saw that Ning Shu didn't even summon his summoned beast, he sneered, "Why don't you summon your summoned beast? Is it because my summoned beast is too weak?" The boy's expression was very relaxed. Summoned beasts were the pride of a summoner. Many summoners were happy to summon their summoned beasts, unless someone's summoned beast was particularly weak or ugly. Ning Shu was expressionless. Since you're not summoning your summoned beast, then I won't show you any mercy. The boy moved his neck and waved at his summoned beast. Go up and bite her neck. The wolf bared its teeth at Ning Shu fiercely, then leaned over and charged at Ning Shu. Ning Shu stood still. Are you scared, silly? The boy curled his lips and waited for the duel to end with a relaxed expression. Ning Shu looked at the wolf that was charging towards her. She stretched out her leg and kicked the ferocious wolf off the stage. The boy stared blankly as his summoned beast was kicked out of the arena. The smug expression on his face froze. You. The boy pointed at Ning Shu with an aggrieved expression. You Shuang wins, the teacher shouted. Teacher, she didn't even summon her summoned beast. This isn't fair, the boy shouted. The teacher said with a straight face, don't you think it's embarrassing enough? She didn't even summon her summoned beast and defeated you. You still have the nerve to call it unfair. The boy left the arena dejectedly. Ning Shu returned to his seat. Teacher Wen, who was sitting in front of the class, turned his head and looked at Ning Shu. He asked, have you started practicing martial arts? Ning Shu nodded. Yes. Very good. You're a summoner, but you still have to find a way to cultivate your summoned beast. Teacher Wen's expression was gentle. Thank you, mentor, Ning Shu said gratefully. You don't have to feel too pressured. You alone can't compare to your opponent. One beast and one man, it's up to you wherever you go. Mentor Wen didn't want Ning Shu to feel pressured. He also knew that Ning Shu wouldn't be able to reach the end. Ning Shu nodded. He looked towards the arena where Frost Dream was fighting. Even Frost Dream's summoned beast this time was a meat-winged dragon. It was extremely chubby, and it arrogantly ripped off all of the other party's summoned beast's fur. That summoned beast originally looked like a lion, mighty and domineering. After its fur was plucked, it lost a lot of weight and became bald all over. It was very funny. The lion summoned beast immediately hid behind its master, making everyone laugh. The owner of the summoned beast was also flushed red. He hurriedly recalled his summoned beast and left the arena with his tail between his legs. The adorable flesh-winged dragon jumped into Lien Frost Dream's arms, a proud expression on its face. Even Frost Dream couldn't help but poke the flesh-winged dragon, a doting expression on her face. Really, how could you pluck out other people's feathers? Lien Frost Dream, victory. Lien Frost Dream hugged the flesh-winged dragon and left the arena. She sat down beside Ning Shu and asked Mentor 1, Mentor, what do you think of my battle just now? Mentor 1 was silent for a moment. Then, he said, a summoned beast is the same as a person, they also have dignity. That's right. I've always treated my summoned beasts as companions and respected them. I've never treated them as animals. Lien Frost Dream smiled as she stroked the adorable flesh-winged dragon. The flesh-winged dragon stretched out its tongue and licked Lien Frost Dream's face, an incomparably intimate expression on its face. Mentor 1 glanced at the flesh-winged dragon and lightly said, a warrior can be killed but not humiliated. That summoned beast would rather be covered in wounds than have all of its fur plucked out. In the future, you should restrain your summoned beasts. Mentor 1 said. Lien Frost Dream's complexion turned ugly for a moment. Her hand stiffened as she stroked the flesh-winged dragon. She explained, the little dragon is just a bit naughty, it doesn't have any malicious intentions. Also, without fur it can grow back. Mentor 1 frowned. He didn't speak, only staring at the arena. How are you? Did you lose? Lien Frost Dream was a bit embarrassed. She could only look for Ning Shu to speak to. She stared at Mentor 1's back with a bit of bitterness in her eyes. Ning Shu said, my luck was good. I won. Then your luck is quite good. Lien Frost Dream faintly said, a bit disappointed. On the first day of the finals, the top 200 had been selected. Ning Shu had successfully entered the top 200. In Lien Frost Dream's words, he had walked into dog shit luck. When Ning Shu was fighting, he didn't release Little Grass. Little Grass had been clamoring to come out. This was because she had seen a demon beast and was very restless. If a two-legged person couldn't eat it, then a four-legged demon beast should be able to. Ning Shu didn't pay attention to her. She used her soft and cute voice to call out, Master, Master. Ning Shu's head felt as if it would explode. He directly shouted at her to shut up. Little Grass was incomparably pitiful as she weakly called out to her master. After the duel ended, Ning Shu returned home to cultivate. He still had to continue the competition tomorrow. Ning Shu looked around and saw that there were some extremely powerful people in the academy. Ning Shu had to cultivate with all his strength in order to ensure that he could reach the end and stand on the same stage as Lien Frost Dream. To defeat Lien Frost Dream in front of everyone, and also not give her any reason to retaliate, this was something that Yu Shuang wanted to see. What Yu Shuang wanted the most was to get rid of Lien Frost Dream. By Lien Frost Dream's side, as long as she went against her will, it would be a mistake. Little Grass floated beside Ning Shu, absorbing the spiritual energy around Ning Shu. She was very clever and didn't say anything to disturb Ning Shu. After he finished cultivating, Ning Shu opened his eyes and looked at his dantian. The energy within his dantian was a bit golden, but the dragon-shaped energy was still white. If he wanted to turn it golden, he would need a massive amount of spiritual energy. He could only slowly cultivate. Master, I want to fight. Little Grass said to Ning Shu in a soft voice. I know that you covet four-legged demon beasts. Let me tell you, you can't eat them, do you understand? Ning Shu was very worried. He was really worried sick. Then what can I eat? Little Grass asked, feeling wronged. I said that you can eat them, do you understand? Will you die if you don't eat them? Ning Shu said angrily. I can. Ning Shu. Master, I'm a plant. I need nutrients. Little Grass said, feeling wronged. Ning Shu took out several demon crystals and gave them to Little Grass. How many days will this be enough for you? Thank you, Master. Xiao Chao directly absorbed the magic crystal. The magic crystal almost instantly turned into powder. Ning Shu. Do you want to endlessly absorb energy? Ning Shu felt that something wasn't right. If she could absorb anything, then wouldn't vines cover the entire world in the future? I don't. I only need energy when I need to be strong. Little Grass said simply. Chapter 10:19. Ning Shu let out a sigh of relief when he heard Xiao Cao's words. If she needed energy endlessly, he wouldn't be able to support her. Xiao Cao, don't absorb everything you see in the future, okay? Ning Shu said. There were so many magic crystals in the shops on the street. If Xiao Cao went crazy and absorbed them, he would be speechless. Ning Shu didn't think that the current Xiao Cao was very strong. This world was full of crouching tigers and hidden dragons. Why? Xiao Cao asked in confusion. When Ning Shu heard her voice, he could imagine a little loli standing in front of him with a face full of question marks. Because they might kill you, Ning Shu said. If they can't kill me, can they absorb me? Xiao Cao asked again. Ning Shu was speechless. That depends on the specific situation. Ning Shu rubbed his eyebrows. For example, if you kill a wild magical beast, you can absorb it after killing it. Ning Shu explained patiently, also, if someone wants to hurt you and threaten your life, you can kill them and absorb them. If they don't offend me, I won't offend them. Oh. Xiao Cao didn't quite understand and said, oh. Also, if you can't beat them, you have to run, okay? Where there's life, there's hope. Find a chance to kill them in the future. Ning Shu tirelessly taught Xiao Cao. I don't understand. Xiao Cao said in confusion. Ning Shu took a deep breath, take it slow. The next day, the final competition continued. Those who could enter the top 200 were all relatively strong. Release your summoned beast. Are you going to fight me and my summoned beast alone? The girl standing opposite Ning Shu frowned. Beside her stood a summoned beast that looked like a fox. Ning Shu nodded and released Xiao Cao. It was only a palm-sized grass. It didn't show a ferocious face. It was just an ordinary grass. This is your summoned beast. The girl pointed at the grass with a strange expression. You want to use a blade of grass to fight me? Master, let me wrap her up and plant grass on her body. Xiao Cao's cute voice sounded vicious. Shut up. Just stay aside. Ning Shu rolled his eyes. Spirit Fox, go. Upon receiving its master's order, the Spirit Fox quickly pounced towards Ning Shu. Ling Hu's speed was very fast. In the blink of an eye, he already dashed in front of Ning Shu. Ning Shu tilted his head to evade Ling Hu's attack. In an instant, Ling Hu disappeared and reappeared behind Ning Shu. Ning Shu abruptly turned around and extended both hands to grab Ling Hu's neck. However, her hand had also been scratched by Ling Hu, and blood was oozing out. Master, let me hold her back. When Xiao Cao saw that Ning Shu was injured, she started to make a fuss again. Ning Shu threw Ling Hu out of the arena. Ling Hu whimpered twice and couldn't get up. You dare to treat my spirit fox like this? The girl raised her eyebrows and glared at Ning Shu. She clenched her fists and rushed over to Ning Shu. A summoner's power came from their summoned beasts. This girl's martial arts were not a match for Ning Shu at all. In an instant, Ning Shu grabbed her wrist and put her behind her back. The girl struggled. Let go of me. Yu Xuan wins. The teacher shouted. Ning Shu let go of the girl's arm. The girl angrily left the arena and picked up Ling Hu. She glared at Ning Shu and left. Ning Shu wiped his wound with a handkerchief and returned to his seat. Drink this. Teacher Wen took out a bottle of medicine and gave it to Ning Shu. Thank you, teacher. Ning Shu drank a mouthful and felt incomparably cool. It was very different from the inferior medicine that was spicy to the throat. After drinking the medicine, the bleeding from his wound gradually stopped. To be able to enter the top 200 is beyond my expectations. To be able to reach this point, you are much stronger than many others. Teacher Wen gently said. Thank you, teacher. Ning Shu smiled and turned to look at the situation of the other arena stages. He saw Muziki. Muziki's strength was quite formidable, especially his summoned beast. It could even breathe fire. Fire-restrained wood, one had to be extremely careful when fighting it. Lien Frost Dream had won with a trail of sparks and lightning. The match was like a game to her, she didn't use any strength at all. It was likely that Teacher Wen's words had some effect. Lien Frost Dream's summoned beast, the flesh-winged dragon, didn't pluck out all of its fur. However, the other summons were still like a game. Lien Frost Dream had a helpless expression. As soon as Lien Frost Dream left the arena stage, someone brought her water. Ning Shu went up to fight several more matches. Like before, Ning Shu defeated his opponents. Little Grass watched from the side. Ning Shu didn't want Little Grass to be exposed so quickly. He didn't want others to be on guard against her, especially Lien Frost Dream. What left Ning Shu speechless was that one of his opponent's summoned beasts was extremely large. It was as heavy as an elephant, and Ning Shu had to expend a great deal of effort to bring it down. He was sweating profusely. You are simply... His opponent looked at Ning Shu, stunned. He didn't think that Ning Shu would have such great strength that he could bring down such a heavy summoned beast. You Shuang, victory! The teacher shouted out as he looked at the fallen elephant. Ning Shu left the arena stage. Lien Frost Dream looked at Ning Shu with surprise. How can you be so strong? I was born with it, Ning Shu said with a smile. How come I didn't know? Lien Frost Dream narrowed her eyes. After thinking for a while, she couldn't recall any information about Yu Shuang's infinite strength. Not bad. You might even be able to reach the top 100. Teacher Wen nodded, pleased. Lien Frost Dream's complexion was a bit ugly. I was worried about you, but in the end you didn't tell me about your innate divine strength. You didn't ask. Lien Frost Dream's complexion became even uglier. Who would know about your innate divine strength? You've never shown it in front of anyone, you've really hidden it well. No wonder you didn't accept my gifts. With this strength, you can even lift up a summoned beast. It doesn't matter if the summoned beast is small or weak. Lien Frost Dream stroked the flesh-winged dragon. You've never treated me as a friend. Yu Shuang had deliberately hidden this from her. I don't usually have the chance to show off my strength, so it's normal that you don't know. Also, everyone has their own secrets. Ning Shu couldn't bear to see Lien Frost Dream like this. He didn't know if it was because she was dissatisfied with her victory or something else. Perhaps it was because she saw a weak person who needed her pity suddenly become a bit stronger, causing her to be surprised and unhappy. The truth is, I've always been curious. You weren't able to summon any summoned beasts before, so how did you manage to summon so many of them? How did you do it? Ning Shu stared at Lien Frost Dream. Lien Frost Dream's eyes flickered. Didn't you say that everyone has their own secrets? Why can't I have my own secrets? The rumors about me being trash were all false. Lien Frost Dream picked up the flesh-winged dragon and left. She didn't want to sit with Ning Shu anymore. Muziki happened to be looking for her, so the two of them left together. Chapter 10-20. Ning Shu had triumphantly advanced all the way to the top 100. She had relied on her own brute strength, from beginning to end, Little Grass hadn't made a single move. Ning Shu had become the greatest dark horse of this tournament. No one had thought that a trash summoner like Ning Shu would rely on her own strength to enter the top 100. Although they were surprised, most people thought that Ning Shu would stop here. In the end, a person couldn't compare to a summoned beast. Sometimes, strength wasn't enough. The further one went, the more powerful the summoned beasts would be. They estimated that Ning Shu would be able to instantly kill them. Ning Shu didn't care. In any case, she still had some strength left over. She could rely on herself to enter the top 50 without relying on Little Grass. Mentor Wen was a bit surprised. Some of the students that he had high hopes for had been eliminated, but Ning Shu had actually advanced. Very good. Mentor Wen warmly praised Ning Shu. Thank you, Mentor. Ning Shu smiled. She was sure that she could enter the top 50. She couldn't miss the opportunity to defeat Lien Frost Dream in a fair and square manner. As long as she defeated Lien Frost Dream, she could be considered free from Lien Frost Dream's friendship kidnapping. Mr. Wen leaned back in his chair and looked at the competition in the ring. He shook his head and said, "The drawbacks of a summoner have been shown. Everything depends on the summoned beast. The summoned beast not only has to fight with the enemy, but also has to protect its master. Once something happens to the summoned beast, the summoner will have no power to resist." Mentor Wen sighed. Some summoners also practice martial arts. Ning Shu said. Mentor Wen shook his head, only a summoner is noble. Many people disdain to practice martial arts. Besides, a martial arts master is just a bit of martial arts. Ning Shu's expression was light. How come this world didn't have a cultivation method similar to internal strength? Her peerless martial arts would definitely be able to shine in this world. At that time, she would also have the power of faith. Ning Shu felt refreshed just thinking about it. Does Mentor Wen also practice martial arts? Ning Shu asked. He couldn't imagine the gentle Mentor Wen rolling up his sleeves and lifting a stone dumpling. Yes. Mentor Wen nodded. Ning Shu imagined Mentor Wen taking off his shirt to train. TSK, Tisk, what are you talking about? You look so happy. Even Frost Dream sat down. Ning Shu said, I never thought that you would be able to enter the top 100. Congratulations, your martial arts are quite good. Let's exchange moves on the arena. Okay. Ning Shu nodded. He remembered that Frost Dream seemed to know ancient martial arts. When he was a mercenary in the modern era, her master was someone from an ancient martial arts family. When the ancient martial arts were cultivated to the extreme, even flying flowers and leaves could be used to hurt people. Grass, trees, bamboo, and stones could all be used as swords. There were very few people that knew that Lien Frost Dream was an ancient martial artist. They just didn't know what boundary she had reached. Lien Frost Dream narrowed her eyes and stared at Ning Shu for a moment. As Ning Shu and Lien Frost Dream stared at each other, Lien Frost Dream was the first to look away. She turned to Mentor Wen and said, Mentor, there is something I would like to ask you. Tell me, what is it? Teacher Wen asked gently. Lien Frost Dream glanced at Ning Shu. Ning Shu stood up, intending to get some water to drink. It was as if he wanted to hear her speak. Ning Shu went to the entrance of the academy to buy some water and some snacks to eat. From the corner of his eyes, he saw a young man speaking to Muziki. He didn't know what the young man said, but Muziki's face became much more ferocious. His eyes turned red and his fists clenched. As Ning Shu saw Muziki like this, he began to guess what had happened. In an instant, Ning Shu thought of the young miss of the Mu family who had died under the cannibal tree. Could it be that the young miss had a good relationship with Muziki? In any case, she had already destroyed the evidence, it was impossible to trace it back to her. Ning Shu gnawed on the snacks as he looked at Muziki. Muziki's eyes were red as he waved his hand, indicating for the young man to leave. The hunchbacked young man quickly ran away. Muziki wiped away his tears and smashed his fist against the wall. "Io, just how painful was that?" Ning Shu smacked his lips. Muziki turned around and saw a woman staring at him. She ignored Ning Shu and was about to enter the academy. Then, she turned around and stared at Ning Shu. She actually walked over to Ning Shu and stood in front of him, looking down at Ning Shu. Ning Shu swallowed the snack in his mouth. "What are you doing? Did you see everything just now?" Muziki's expression was cold as he frowned. Ning Shu shook his head. "I didn't see anything." Damn, he was venting his anger on her. "She was just a passerby, don't go overboard." "Why are you following me?" Muziki said in a low voice. Ning Shu, damn, he was deliberately looking for trouble, right? "I didn't, let me tell you." "What's your name again?" "I won't like you even if I die." "Don't be delusional." Muziki said with disdain. Ning Shu, damn, he was feeling uncomfortable so he wanted to poke at someone else's heart. This bastard was clearly doing this on purpose. "If I find out that you're following me again, I'll kill you." Muziki coldly said. Don't appear in front of me again. Otherwise, I won't let you see tomorrow's sun." Muziki turned and walked away. Ning Shu. Damn, can't you let her finish speaking? She hadn't even said a complete sentence. Ning Shu said Amitba, wishing her a heartbroken death. Ning Shu finished his snack and entered the academy. He returned to his seat, not even bothering to say anything to Teacher Wen. He had a reserved and beautiful smile on his face as he looked at Teacher Wen's side profile. Ning Shu stared at the battle stage. He saw Muziki on one of the stages. Muziki seemed as if he had been stimulated. All of his opponents were covered in wounds. Not only did he have his own summoned beast cripple his opponent's summoned beast, but he also went on stage to violently beat up his opponent. His opponent hurriedly admitted defeat, pitifully crying out to the referee for help. To be Muziki's opponent was simply 8 lifetimes of bad luck. Several students were severely beaten up by Muziki. After beating someone up, Muziki threw 2 bottles of high-level potions at them, coldly saying that although this was a trial, it was inevitable that there would be times when he made a mistake. Muziki was much stronger than his opponent, so how could he make a mistake? His opponent picked up the potions on the ground and glared at Muziki. Then, he limped down the stage with his summoned beast. Muziki felt sad. He had taken out his anger on others. As long as a student fought with Muziki, they would tremble in fear. Some people directly forfeited. The current Muziki was terrifying. He had a gloomy and evil aura around him, as if he had some deep grudge. As Frost Dream saw Muziki like this, she quickly went to find him. She probably went to comfort Muziki. Ning Shu only hoped that she wouldn't meet Muziki in the top 50. Muziki clearly needed someone to vent his anger on. She didn't want to join in. She didn't want to reveal her trump card so quickly. If she revealed her trump card too early, she wouldn't have any advantage. Now, others would think that she was a strong and barbaric girl. At that time, she would be able to catch them off guard. Chapter 1021. Muziki's mentor didn't want Muziki to embarrass himself too much. If he won, then everything would be fine. Muziki's face paled, as if he hadn't heard the mentor's words at all. The mentor had no other choice. After all, this was the student he was most proud of. Moreover, his family background was amazing. His grandfather was one of the pillars of the empire. Muziki, what's wrong? Lien Frost Dream found Muziki and asked with concern. Muziki wiped his face and said in a downcast voice, "My big sister died in the family smelting trial." This. Lien Frost Dream was surprised. How did she die? The family only found her clothes. Her corpse was already absorbed by the man-eating tree, Muziki's eyes were red. She is my blood-related big sister. Lien Frost Dream comforted Muziki, gently saying, the weather is unpredictable, and people are uncertain. Your big sister doesn't want you to be so sad. My big sister isn't weak and she also has a family elder by her side. It's impossible for her to die so easily. The family is currently investigating the cause of her death. Do you suspect that there is another reason for your big sister's death? Lien Frost Dream asked, but we don't even have a corpse. How are we supposed to investigate? With the Mu family's strength, we should be able to find out. Muziki let out a long breath. He looked at Lien Frost Dream's beautiful face. Thank you for comforting me. I just can't accept that my big sister died so suddenly. It's fine, we are partners. Your pain is my pain. Everyone will bear it together. Lien Frost Dream patted Muziki's shoulder. You have to pull yourself together. Thank you. Muziki looked at Lien Frost Dream, his eyes filled with love and warmth. Ning Shu was praying that he wouldn't run into Muziki. But, the result was that he would run into Muziki in the top 100 matches. Next match, Muziki against Yu Shuangshuang. Ning Shu felt sick all over. Shuangshuang, Muziki's big sister has passed away. If anything happens, please bear with it. Ning Shu was about to go on stage when Lien Frost Dream pulled back Ning Shu, speaking to Ning Shu. Ning Shu. Exercise. What did that mean? So. Ning Shu asked. Take this. Lien Frost Dream stuffed a bottle of medicine into Ning Shu's hand. Muziki's older sister is dead. She is Muziki's blood-related older sister. If Muziki did something excessive, would you be able to understand? You like him, so you should be able to understand just how sad he is right now. Even Frost Dream Ning Shu earnestly said. Ning Shu, what was the meaning of this? Could it be that she should be taught a lesson by Muziki to vent her anger? If Muziki died, what did it have to do with her? Even if the entire family died, it had nothing to do with her. And if I don't understand? Ning Shu's face was indifferent. He tilted his head and looked at Lien Frost Dream. Even Frost Dream froze for a moment. She frowned and said, he is in a sad state right now. It's none of my business. Ning Shu said unhappily, I know that he's much stronger than me, and I still have to thank you for your medicine. Why didn't you persuade him to control his emotions? So what if I died? Others didn't owe him anything, so why should he vent his anger on others? Don't you like him? Why can't you understand what he's feeling right now? That's his blood-related big sister. Lien Frost Dream said. I just don't understand, I just don't understand. Was there something wrong with her head? Yu Shuangshuang has gone on stage. The mentor on stage shouted out. But, Muziki's face was dark from beginning to end. Go on stage and do your best. This competition is not child's play. Mentor Wen frowned as he spoke to Ning Shu. Yes. Ning Shu stepped onto the stage and stared at Muziki. Muziki's mood wasn't good to begin with. If it weren't for the Academy's competition, he would have already returned home. Muziki also wanted to obtain the Academy's resources. He had heard that the rewards for first place were extremely rich, so he had to obtain them no matter what. Now that Muziki saw that his opponent was Ning Shu, his complexion was extremely ugly. He frowned, impatience filling his face. Just set him on fire, how annoying. Muziki said to his summoned beast. If it were any other opponent, Muziki would still go up and beat them up. But facing Ning Shu, Muziki's heart was filled with impatience and disgust. He didn't even want to beat him up. Especially when he saw Lin Ming's miserable appearance at the entrance of the academy, as well as his confession. Why didn't Lin Ming take a look at himself? Muziki's summoned beast was similar to his big sister's summoned beast. It was a large and beautiful bird. It looked like a phoenix, but it wasn't a phoenix that could be reborn in flames. Rather, it was a Luan. If it could be reborn in flames, then perhaps it could evolve into a phoenix. Muziki's Luan let out a clear cry and flew into the air. It opened its beak and spat out a long flame dragon at Ning Shu. Ning Shu quickly dodged, but the flame still touched his cuffs. Ning Shu quickly patted his cuffs, but the flame simply couldn't be extinguished. The flame fiercely burned on the ground, a raging inferno. Looking at Muziki in front of him, Ning Shu jumped over the flame and raised his fist to smash at Muziki. Muziki saw Ning Shu charging at him and sneered. Does he really think he's so great just because he has a little strength? Muziki took a step back and closed his eyes. He summoned another summoned beast, the Iron-Winged Spirit Rock Bull. The Iron-Winged Spirit Rock Bull's body seemed to be made of rock. It moved as soon as it appeared and charged at Ning Shu with its horn on its head. If he was really hit by the Iron-Winged Spirit Rock Bull, then he would lose half his life. If he didn't die, then he would be crippled. Muziki was really ruthless. Ning Shu wouldn't collide with a bull. He dodged the Iron-Winged Spirit Rock Bull's attack and grabbed the bull's horn to sit on its back. The Iron-Winged Spirit Rock Bull jumped, wanting to throw Ning Shu off. Ning Shu tightly held onto the bull's horn and circulated the qi in his body. The qi entered his dantian and with the horn in his hand, he threw the Iron-Winged Spirit Rock Bull onto the ground. Then he threw it on the ground with all his might. The Iron-Winged Spirit Rock Bull smashed onto the ground and created a dent in the stage. Moo! The Iron-Winged Spirit Rock Bull cried out mournfully. Ning Shu's heart was filled with anger as she used all her strength to smash the bull. She then threw the bull away and smashed it towards Muziki. Muziki's expression was a little dazed. However, he reacted quickly and recalled his summoned beast. The people below the stage were all stunned. How much strength was needed to throw a bull around for fun? Chirp chirp. The Luan foam that was flying in the air flew down. Muziki jumped on the back of the Luan foam and flew into the air, looking down at Ning Shu. Perhaps he knew that Ning Shu was strong, but strength was useless in this situation. Teach him a lesson. I can't let him off so easily. Muziki's expression was a little sinister. His Iron-Winged Spirit Rock Bull was heavily injured. Did he think that he could win with just a little strength? Naive. Chapter 1022. The Luan foam cried out. It raised its head and spat out a blazing flame at Ning Shu. What the Luan foam spat out wasn't fire, but more like burning magma. When it fell to the ground, even the arena began to corrode. Almost the entire arena was engulfed in a sea of fire. If Ning Shu wanted to avoid it, she would have to leave the arena. But, if she left the arena, she would lose this match. Ning Shu frowned. Her current peerless martial arts weren't enough to allow her to fly. She needed to turn her energy into a golden color before she could fly. Master, let me do it. Little Grass's voice sounded out in Ning Shu's mind. There's fire here, can you do it? Fire was the bane of wood. Master, let me try. Fire is also a type of energy. I can try to absorb it. Little Grass said in a soft voice. Ning Shu, thought he didn't know why, but he always felt that Little Grass would never be full. Alright, you can try. He couldn't lose like this. If he lost then he wouldn't be able to enter the finals to fight Frost Dream. Little Grass floated around Ning Shu. She stretched out her vines, twisting them into the shape of a chair. She stretched out her vines and pulled on Ning Shu's waist, making him sit on the chair. The vines continued to grow, sending Ning Shu into the air. Send you to the heavens. Ning Shu sat on the chair like a queen. The vines on the chair began to grow leaves and flower buds. The flower buds instantly bloomed, beautiful and magnificent. Ning Shu looked as if he were sitting on a chair made of flowers. Ning Shu, oh yeah, this pretentious act was pretty good. Ning Shu crossed his legs and leaned back. He tilted his chin up and looked at Muziki across from him. Muziki stared at the vines in a daze. He never thought that Ning Shu would have such a summoned beast. Ning Shu pretended to be calm, but he anxiously asked in his heart, "How is it?" Fire greatly restrained Little Grass, who had the wood attribute. "It hurts a lot." Xiao Qiao softly said, "But I can endure it. I'll try to absorb energy. In the future, I won't be afraid of fire anymore." Ning Shu, who was sitting on the flower chair, shocked a lot of people, especially the students who were familiar with Ning Shu. They couldn't help but rub their eyes. This was not the Yushuangshuang they knew. Yushuangshuang's summoned beast was a blade of grass, but when did this blade of grass become so strong? Or did Yushuangshuang summon a new summoned beast? Lien Frost Dream stared at Ning Shu on the arena stage. She sat in her chair, her eyes filled with arrogance and contempt. This wasn't the self-conscious and sensitive Yushuangshuang. Yushuangshuang's strength was already beyond her expectations, but she didn't expect her to have such a powerful summoned beast. She was really good at enduring. She didn't even summon her summoned beast in the beginning. She relied on her own brute force to get through. Yushuangshuang could be considered one of the strongest in the academy with her powerful summoned beast and her innate strength. Lien Frost Dream's complexion was a bit ugly. In particular, as she saw Teacher Wen straighten his back and look at Ning Shu, her complexion became even uglier. Lien Frost Dream felt as if she had been betrayed. Yushuangshuang didn't say anything to her and hid everything from her. She had pitied Yushuangshuang and tried to cover for her. But in the end, Yushuangshuang was so strong that it made her actions seem laughable. She guessed that Yushuangshuang was secretly laughing at her in her heart. Lien Frost Dream felt her cheeks heat up. She stared at Ning Shu on the flower chair. What was the point of hiding things like this? Muziki's expression became serious. He no longer thought of Ning Shu as someone he could casually bully. The Luan Phoenix beneath Muziki's feet spat out flames. Before Ning Shu could move, Xiao Qiao had already swung her chair so that Ning Shu could avoid the attack. Xiao Qiao stretched out many vines towards Muziki, wanting to wrap around the man and bird. As the Luan Phoenix saw the vines reach towards it, it flapped its wings and flew away. It also spat out flames towards the vines. The vines were roasted by the flames, turning pitch black. The leaves and flowers on the vines withered. Ning Shu felt his heart twitch as he looked at this. Although some of the vines had been burned to charcoal, there were still many more that reached out. Chirp chirp, chirp chirp chirp. The Luan Phoenix cried out, constantly dodging the vines that were attacking it. Muziki was squatting on top of the Luan Phoenix so that he wouldn't fall off. He looked a bit distressed. Although the two sides were in a deadlock, Ning Shu was still sitting in his chair, leisurely. He even picked a flower and smelled it. It was as if he had come for an outing. As Muziki saw Ning Shu like this, he felt powerless. He finally understood what it was like to be bullied by him. Muziki still couldn't believe that this weak person had suddenly become so powerful. It was as if he had seen an ant that he could easily crush suddenly turn into a giant dragon. The Luan Phoenix continued to spit fire at the vines. It seemed that because it kept spitting fire, it had lost a lot of energy. Even its beautiful feathers had become a lot dimmer. As for Xiao Qiao, the more she fought in the flames, the braver she became. She began to absorb the energy in the flames. Ning Shu asked Xiao Qiao in his mind, "Can you hold on?" "I can hold on, but it hurts a lot." Xiao Cao's voice sounded like she was about to cry. She sniffled and endured the pain, causing Ning Shu's heart to soften. "If you really can't hold on, then let's retreat first." "It's okay, I can hold on," Xiao Qiao softly said. Xiao Qiao stretched out her vines towards the Luan Phoenix. The vines were burned to a crisp by the flames, but they didn't give up, as if they wanted to drag the two people down. The competition arena was silent. Everyone held their breath as they stared at the battle on stage. Even Frost Dream frowned as she saw Muziki at a disadvantage. She carefully looked at Ning Shu, who was leisurely sitting on a flower chair. The more she looked at him, the more unfamiliar he seemed. Was Yu Shuangshuang like this? Even Frost Dream suspected that Yu Shuangshuang had transmigrated like herself. It seemed that she needed to test her waters. The battle continued. One side sat steadily on the stage while the other side was a bit tired. The one phoenix was a bit careless and its reaction was half a beat too slow, causing the vines to wrap around its body. Master, I caught. Xiao Chao pulled down the one phoenix and Muziki, not forgetting to ask for credit from Ning Shu. Master, can I take out that thing that can fly? I don't want to eat that thing that has the same legs as Master. Can I just eat that thing that can fly? Xiao Chao asked Ning Shu in her cute and childish voice. You can't. You can't eat that. Ning Shu smiled. Xiao Chao gave a disappointed "oh" sound. As for Muziki and his summoned beast, they were unable to move because of the vines. Muziki's eyes were red as he struggled with all his strength, but he ended up chafing his skin. Ning Shu sat on a chair, propping up his chin as he looked down at Muziki. He felt extremely refreshed. She had wanted to torture Muziki for a long time, and today she had finally found the opportunity. Master, let me eat him. Xiao Chao immediately said. That is the best punishment for him. It will also provide me with energy. Ning Shu. Can you have some goals in life? Don't just think about eating all day. Ning Shu grumpily said. Then what should I think about? Xiao Chao asked in confusion. Chapter 1023. Ning Shu looked at Muziki, who was extremely unconvinced, and directly said to Xiao Chao, beat him up. Whip? Little Grass sounded confused. Use your vines to whip him. It's fine as long as you don't whip him to death. Ning Shu said as he played with the flower in his hand. Little Grass raised her vines and began to whip Muziki. Muziki felt as if his skin and flesh were about to split open and he groaned in pain. Little Grass seemed to have found something fun and excitedly whipped Muziki. Soon, Muziki was covered in wounds. His clothes were torn and blood seeped out. Even Muziki's summoned beast, the Wan Feng, was whipped many times. The Wan Feng whimpered and looked extremely pitiful. Muziki bitterly looked up at Ning Shu and then put away his summoned beast. His two summoned beasts were already injured. It would take some time for them to recover and he wouldn't be able to continue participating in the competition. Ning Shu smiled. I really like your current expression. I like to step on you, I like to see you struggle, I like to crush you like a gardenia flower. I like to see you hate me but can't kill me. Pa. Another vine hit his body. Muziki's face twisted in pain. He shouted towards the instructor, I admit defeat. Yu Shuangshuang wins. The instructor quickly shouted. Little Grass slowly descended with Ning Shu in her arms. Ning Shu stood up from his chair and walked in front of Muziki. Muziki's clothes were torn and the torn areas were stained with blood. His face was covered in sweat and his hair was wet. He had a tyrannical beauty to him. When paired with his handsome face, it caused one's heart to stir. Ning Shu's heart began to stir. He really wanted to beat him to death. Ning Shu threw the medicine that Frost Dream had given him to Muziki. Muziki looked up at Ning Shu with red eyes, as if he had been humiliated to the extreme. His face was so twisted that it was unbearable to look at. Although this is a trial, it's inevitable that there will be mistakes. Take this medicine, Ning Shu said in a kind tone. When Muziki heard this, his face turned green. Student, untie the vines, Instructor Ning Shu said. Oh right, I almost forgot. Ning Shu nodded and had Xiao Chao put away the vines. Little grass floated beside Ning Shu. It looked like an ordinary grass. But now, no one thought that he was an ordinary grass. Ning Shu left the stage and walked towards his seat. The people in front of Ning Shu silently made way for him as they stared at the stalk of grass beside Ning Shu. Lien Frost Dream stood in front of Ning Shu, blocking his path. Ning Shu and her stared at each other. You Shuang, don't you think you went a bit too far just now? Even Frost Dream disapprovingly said. Ning Shu was expressionless. How is it too much? You were just deliberately humiliating him. Lien Frost Dream indignantly said. I didn't. Didn't Muziki do the same thing before? Humiliating someone and then throwing a high-level medicine at them. Oh, if Muziki could do that, then she couldn't. Even Frost Dream sighed. Didn't I tell you that his big sister has already passed away? It's fine if you defeated him, but he's already been tied up by you, so why are you still whipping him? It's lucky that you like him. You don't even know what he's feeling in his heart. Lien Frost Dream looked at Ning Shu. You were too arrogant just now. No, I only whipped Muziki. I didn't whip anyone else. Ning Shu smiled. If it weren't for Xiao Chao, then she might have been disfigured or she might have lost the duel. Why did Muziki take everything for granted? He even chose to ignore Frost Dream. She couldn't do that. Whatever his own people did was right, and what others did was wrong. I really can't get through to you. Lien Frost Dream shook her head. I formally challenge you now. Muziki is my companion, so I have the right to seek justice for him. Muziki was being carried off the arena stage on a stretcher. As he heard Lien Frost Dream's words, he looked at her in a daze. Then, he smiled at her, as if he were touched by her words. Ning Shu. You Shuang, since you're so fierce now, you should accept my challenge. Lien Frost Dream said. What a fucking psychopath. Ning Shu was left speechless. Why should I accept your challenge? Even Frost Dream, do you think you're living in your own fantasy world? Ning Shu grumpily said. Lien Frost Dream was stunned. The previous Yu Shuang would never speak to her like this. She really did think that strength gave her confidence. I have to seek justice for my companion, otherwise others will think that the people of our mercenary group can be casually bullied. Lien Frost Dream's expression turned cold as she stared at Ning Shu. This is the academy and this is only an academy competition. When did I bully Muziki? Didn't Muziki say that it's hard to avoid mistakes in a competition? Now you're using this to cause trouble for me. Lien Frost Dream, don't you think you're being a bit unreasonable? Lien Frost Dream sneered, I'm being unreasonable. What I see is that you're using your position to take revenge on a personal grudge and deliberately humiliate Muziki. Ning Shu. Damn. She was always so self-centered. Are you blind? Didn't Muziki do the same before? Ning Shu impatiently said. There was no point in arguing with Lien Frost Dream. It was like debating whether the chicken or the egg came first. Do you think you're righteous enough to seek justice for those people? I don't care about others. My heart can only hold my companions. I don't care about anyone else. If anyone dares to bully my companions, I will kill them no matter how far they are. Lien Frost Dream's expression became increasingly cold. Get out of my way. Ning Shu didn't want to speak with Lien Frost Dream anymore. You agree to my challenge. Lien Frost Dream didn't move an inch. She blocked in front of Ning Shu. Ning Shu's expression was indifferent. I really have to hand it to you. You Shuang, I also have to hand it to you. Is there any meaning in pretending? Lien Frost Dream said, is there any meaning in pretending to be a weakling? I never said that I was a weakling. Your reputation as a trash is just a rumor, and my reputation as a trash is also a rumor. Ning Shu lightly said. Teacher Wen walked over, his face stern. Teacher Wen had always been gentle, but this was the first time he had seen him so angry. You still want to duel? You haven't even gone on stage to compete with others. You want to fight to the death with your own people? Teacher Wen looked at Lien Frost's dream. There will definitely be injuries in the competition. What are you trying to do? Mu Ziki has indeed lost. Teacher. Lien Frost's dream saw that Teacher Wen wasn't standing on her side, so she called out with a bit of grievance. If you can enter the top 50, then you can go on stage and fight as you please. Do you think it's good to block off like this? Teacher Wen's voice was low and deep, filling his entire body with a pressure that made one's heart tremble. Don't forget, this man was a powerhouse. His gentleness was just a facade. Chapter 1024. Teacher Wen's appearance to mediate didn't calm the situation down. Instead, it made the conflict seem as if it were fermenting. Lien Frost's dream felt that Teacher Wen was biased towards Yu Shuangshuang and was even more dissatisfied. Lien Frost's dream had a favorable impression of the gentle and gentlemanly Teacher Wen, but the person she liked was biased towards someone else. In addition, her companion had been beaten to such a state. Lien Frost's dream felt as if a rake was raking through her heart. Lien Frost's dream took a deep breath and indifferently asked Ning Shu, then do you dare to duel with me on the arena stage? Ning Shu lifted his chin, so what if I accept and so what if I don't accept? Instead, we will face each other on the arena stage. We will face each other on the arena stage. I agree with Teacher Wen. Since we must duel, then let's duel during the match. Lien Frost's dream solemnly said, good, then let's decide victory and defeat on the arena stage. Lien Frost's dream deeply looked at Teacher Wen and then turned to leave. Ning Shu felt a sense of evil in his heart. Lien Frost's dream had been constantly talking about Yu Shuangshuang liking Mu Ziki, and now she was giving her a taste of her own medicine. Ning Shu coughed and said to Teacher Wen, Teacher, why don't you go and look at Lien Frost's dream? Don't you know that she likes you? Teacher Wen's complexion didn't change. He glanced at Ning Shu. How did you raise your summoned beast to such a state? I used demon crystals and demon beast meat to raise it. Ning Shu said, as if he were speaking the truth. Teacher Wen was lost in thought. Ning Shu couldn't help but be speechless. Teacher Wen didn't react at all, he simply didn't care. Those that could become powerhouses were all people with a firm and resolute mind. How could they be so easily influenced by others? Heart like a boulder. Ning Shu said with a bored expression, Teacher, I'll be leaving. Go. Teacher Wen waved his hand, prepare for the next match. Soon, the top 50 rankings were decided. Ning Shu and Lien Frost's dream were in the top 50. But, the top 50 rankings weren't guaranteed. This was because they would face challenges. If they were defeated, the challengers would replace the loser. Mu Ziki didn't know what kind of elixir he ate, but all his wounds were healed. Even the wounds of his summoned beasts were healed. His summoned beasts were in high spirits. When Mu Ziki saw Ning Shu, his eyes darkened. Using his hand as a knife, he drew a line across his neck. His provocation was self-evident. Ning Shu curled her lips, she reckoned that Mu Ziki wanted to challenge her. Let's see how many high-grade potions you have. Ning Shu was already prepared to be challenged, but Mu Ziki didn't challenge her. Instead, he challenged a relatively weak student within the top 50. Ning Shu rolled his eyes. Pfft, the boy who was challenged by Mu Ziki couldn't help but shake his head. He was already quite lucky to have made it this far, but now his good luck was about to come to an end. As expected, Mu Ziki took care of the boy in 2 or 3 moves and successfully advanced to the top 50. Lien Frost's dream smiled at Mu Ziki. Ning Shu had an indifferent expression. Tomorrow was the finals. Ning Shu returned home and worked hard to cultivate, striving to cultivate his qi gene to a golden color. Little grass floated around Ning Shu, absorbing spiritual energy. Ning Shu looked at little grass. He couldn't help but smile and say, "When you can transform into a human form, I'll teach you how to cultivate." "It won't be easy for me to transform into a human form," Little Grass softly said. Ning Shu nodded. That was true. It was already difficult for Little Grass to grow to her current state. It was impossible for her to transform into a human form in a single step. "Master, you can tell me how to cultivate. I'll memorize it." Little Grass stretched out a vine and wrapped around Ning Shu's ankle. "Okay." Ning Shu slowly recited the Heart Sutra of the Peerless Martial Arts to Little Grass. Little Grass followed Ning Shu and recited it. She simply memorized it. With Little Grass's intelligence, it was impossible for her to understand such a difficult Heart Sutra. Even a blade of grass would not be able to cultivate it. "Master is so nice. I want to be with Master forever." Flowers bloomed on Xiaocao's vines one after another. It was very beautiful. Ning Shu smiled and began to cultivate. After cultivating for an entire night, he was full of energy. Ning Shu slowly ate his breakfast. He saw that the earrings on his mother-in-law's ears were very beautiful. They were made of jade and there was a golden buyao on her head. "Mother, it's very beautiful." Ning Shu gave her a thumbs up. His mother-in-law touched the golden buyao on her head in embarrassment and whispered, "Your father gave it to me. Father has good taste." Ning Shu said with a smile. "Sister, I heard that your school has a competition. Can you take me to see it? I want to go." The little bean used a spoon to dig into the rice as he asked Ning Shu. "This." Ning Shu was a bit worried. "Sister has to worry about the competition and can't take care of you. What if you get lost?" "Yes, don't cause trouble for your sister." Yu Xing said to the little bean. "Father, I'm already very strong. Normal people are no match for me. I don't want sister to take care of me. I will be obedient." The little bean looked unhappy. He slid off the chair and turned his back to the three. Ning Shu put down his chopsticks and said to the little bean, "Little bean, spar with sister. If you can beat sister, I will take you to the competition. You are a man of your word. Come on." The little bean clenched his small fist. Ning Shu and the little bean went to the yard to fight. The Yu couple looked at each other and also went to the yard. "Come on, sister." The little bean released a wave of qi and attacked Ning Shu. Ning Shu dodged it. The little bean raised his fist and attacked Ning Shu again. Ning Shu stretched out his leg and wanted to kick the little bean away. The little bean was very agile and dodged the attack. He jumped up and rushed towards Ning Shu fiercely. Ning Shu smiled. "Little bean, sister will show you what qi is." A golden dragon-shaped qi appeared behind Ning Shu. The shape of the dragon was very realistic and it seemed to have scales. With a roar, it charged towards Little Bean. Little Bean's eyes widened as he saw the dragon-shaped energy rushing towards him. The dragon's claws grabbed onto Little Bean's clothes and lifted him into the air. Ning Shu retracted her qi. The little bean fell to the ground and immediately got up. He ran to Ning Shu excitedly. "Sister, how did you do it? You are so strong. So, your little skills are not enough. Do you understand?" Ning Shu squatted down and put his hand on the little bean's shoulder. The little bean looked very disappointed. "Shuang Shuang, why don't you take Little Bean with you? He stays at home all day. Let him go out and play." Yu Xing felt bad for his son. Xiao Chao stretched out a vine and flowers bloomed on it. "Master, you can give him a flower. No matter where he is, he will be able to sense it." Ning Shu was speechless. When did she learn this skill? Ning Shu nodded in agreement. Okay, sister will take you to see the summoners fight. Ning Shu plucked a flower from the vine and put it in the little bean's pocket. Don't lose this or I won't be able to find you. Yes. The little bean smiled. Chapter 1025. Ning Shu led the little bean to the academy and had the little bean sit in his seat. Ning Shu sat in Lien Frost Dream's seat. Ever since the two of them had a falling out, the relationship between Ning Shu and Lien Frost Dream had become as cold as a Siberian river. In any case, they had completely fallen out. Ning Shu let out a sigh of relief. It was for the best that they had fallen out. Teacher Wen stared at the little bean. Ning Shu said, "Don't break the rules of the academy. If you casually bring a child here, they might even be eaten by a student-summoned beast." "No, I will kill the summoned beast," the little bean quickly said. Teacher Wen raised an eyebrow. "How will you kill the summoned beast?" "With my fist." The little bean raised his small fist. Teacher Wen didn't speak for a long time. The referee on the stage called out Ning Shu's name. Ning Shu was about to go on stage. Ning Shu said to the little bean, "You stay here and don't run around. Teacher, help me look after my little brother. I'll be down soon." Ning Shu said to Teacher Wen and then went on stage. Ning Shu's opponent looked at her with vigilance. Everyone knew that Ning Shu's summoned beast's binding ability was too difficult to deal with. Once they were bound, they could only wait to be slaughtered. However, those that could reach the top 50 weren't weak. They all had some skill. Her opponent released a monkey-like summoned beast. This monkey had a pair of dark green eyes. Ning Shu stretched his neck, planning to fight this monkey with his bare hands. "Begin." As the teacher's voice fell, Ning Shu raised his fist and smashed it at the monkey. Ning Shu's opponent was watching from the side. As he saw that Ning Shu hadn't released his summoned beast, his heart jumped with joy. "Hurry up and beat her." The monkey squeaked, and Ning Shu rushed over. Ning Shu fought with the monkey bare-handed, but the monkey's dark green eyes were dazzling. "Come on, big sister. Big sister is the best." Little Bean stood on the chair and waved her hands at Ning Shu. "Sit down." Teacher Wen looked at the little bean silently. "Oh." Little Bean sat down obediently. Ning Shu tried his best not to look into the monkey's eyes. The monkey's speed was very fast. When Ning Shu punched, the monkey had already disappeared, leaving only an afterimage. Then, the monkey attacked from other directions. Ning Shu calmed his mind and wasn't in a hurry. After a round of fighting, he kicked the monkey off the stage. Even Frost Dream and Muziki's mercenary group sat together, looking at Ning Shu on stage. What kind of martial skill does this woman practice? It's so powerful that she can take on the Jade-Eye Beast head-on, a boy asked with a frown. With her strength, even if she doesn't have a summoned beast, she'll still be fine. Muziki, didn't this girl confess to you? Go and find out what kind of martial skill she practices. With this martial skill, our summoned beasts won't be weak. With this martial skill, our strength might have a qualitative breakthrough. Muziki's complexion was ugly. You bunch of bad friends. You want me to talk to that hateful woman? I really don't want to see her. A moment of self-respect isn't anything. So what if you use a honey trap? You'll just be beaten up by her. If you play with her feelings and then throw her away, I guarantee that she'll be in even more pain than she is now. Lien Frost Dream's complexion was ugly. What are you talking about? Muziki looked at Lien Frost Dream. If I fight with you Shuang first, I'll try my best to wear down her combat strength. At that time, your chances of winning will be much higher. You mean that I can't beat her? Lien Frost Dream stared at Muziki. You don't believe me? You think I can't beat her? I didn't mean that. Mu Ziki shook his head. Lien Frost Dream stared at Ning Shu. She lightly said, she can, but it's impossible for her to defeat me. Yu Shuang, victory. Big sister, you're amazing. As soon as Ning Shu stepped down from the stage, the little bean rushed over. Ning Shu said, Little bean, look at how big sister defeated her summoned beast even though she didn't summon it. Little bean is just as fierce as big sister, so it doesn't matter if you have a summoned beast or not. In truth, the little bean had always been disappointed that she wasn't a summoner. Little bean nodded. I'll do my best. Ning Shu and the little bean sat together, watching the match on the arena stage. Lien Frost Dream's strength was indeed formidable. In order to challenge Ning Shu, Lien Frost Dream didn't summon her summoned beast, and instead used her own martial arts to defeat her opponent's summoned beast. This also allowed Ning Shu to see Lien Frost Dream's strength. It seemed that Lien Frost Dream's ancient martial arts had already reached the level of internal strength. However, Lien Frost Dream's opponent was a strength-type summoned beast. If it was an elemental-type summoned beast that could spit out water or fire, then her chances of victory wouldn't be high. Big sister, does she also know battle chi? The little bean saw that Lien Frost Dream's fighting style was very similar to Ning Shu's. Ning Shu asked for confirmation. It's not the same. Ning Shu rubbed the little bean's head. Peerless martial arts became more powerful the further one progressed. Mentor Wen turned his head and gently asked, what is battle chi? It's the name of a martial skill. Ning Shu lightly said. Mentor Wen narrowed his eyes and gently said, how come I've never heard of this martial skill? Mentor, you don't know all the martial skills in the world. Ning Shu rolled his eyes. Mentor Wen nodded. I've collected all the martial skills in the world. Ning Shu. Next match, Yu Shuang against Mu Ziki. The mentor shouted. Ning Shu raised his eyebrows. He didn't expect to face Mu Ziki so quickly. Ning Shu stepped onto the stage and looked at Mu Ziki across from him. Mu Ziki's face was taut and his expression was very ugly. Mu Ziki looked at Ning Shu and said, although you are strong, I still hate you. I will never like you. Mu Ziki's words caused an uproar in the audience. Everyone looked at Ning Shu with strange expressions. There was no lack of people taking pleasure in his misfortune. Although Ning Shu had entered the top 50, his impression of Yu Shuang was still that of a trash summoner. Ning Shu, what the hell? Yu Shuang, I'll tell you one more time. I will never like you. Even if you are strong, I will still hate you. Mu Ziki's voice was loud and clear. Ning Shu looked at Mu Ziki. He was deliberately attacking her, using another method to attack her. She was rejected by the person she liked, and on such an occasion. If it was any other girl, they wouldn't be able to bear it. Their emotions would be in a mess and they wouldn't have the face to stay on the stage. They would run off crying. Ning Shu moved his wrist and neck. His neck made cracking sounds. He smiled faintly and said, what does it have to do with me that you hate me? You say it as if my life can be improved if you like me. Beat him. Ning Shu released Xiao Chao. Xiao Chao's vines immediately wrapped around Mu Ziki. Mu Ziki, who was tied up, had an ugly expression as he stared at Ning Shu with bloodshot eyes. You're tuning in to the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.